Hi, and welcome back to PJ Maybe, and thank you again for joining us for season 12 of Red Dwarf. Sadako24 and myself have we been looking forward to this one?
Yeah. I've enjoyed this season.
Yeah, I must admit, I haven't seen this season since I got the DVD initially. I saw it when it was first on the TV, and when I purchased the DVD, I saw it. I haven't seen it since then.
Right. See, I stopped watching live TV back in probably 2016 or something. So basically, when I saw the Red Dwarf DVDs on the shelf, I thought, okay, I'll get them and I'll reconnect with the show, and I enjoyed it. It was like old times again.
It was, and consider this one was out. You're talking about what, 4 years ago? It's. I didn't really watch new stuff then. I basically avoided the TV, but because it was Red Dwarf, it's the same as I used to do. I would watch Doctor Who when it came on initially, and and then I just gradually got to the point, I couldn't even be bothered with that. But Red Dwarf, anytime it was on the TV, Dave, whatever, I still watched it because it was Red Dwarf.
See, that's the thing, because like for me, like, I mean, I've been quite negative about the seasons 7 to 9.
Yep.
Well, so 7 to 10, really.
Yes, 10 is probably 9 and 10 are definitely the worst two, I think.
Yeah, the thing is, like, because after 8, I didn't really feel like I was a fan anymore, and so I don't know what it was about this season that in terms of the DVD release, that kind of made me think, just something about it kind of made me think, it looks like, the show could be back in business. Maybe it might be just like, it's worth seeing just to, because I think because I wasn't watching TV at the time, I was kind of feeling a bit of a dearth in my life, and there's something old and familiar, and but it's like, I thought I'll check it out, kind of thing.
Yeah. My dogs are barking something awful. Hold on a sec, I'm going to shut my door.
Fair enough.
That usually means that somebody's walking past the house, or somebody's delivering it, or putting something in the post box, because it's right outside the house. The dogs have decided they own the whole street, so anybody comes near. So, but yeah, I see. I've always classed myself as a fan because I watched it from when it was very first broadcast. So I've been watching it that long, and my kids grew up with me rewatching it. I had the videos and stuff like that, so my kids grew up with watching it. So any chance it was on, I just get into it and watched it. But even parts that were bad, I knew they were bad. I didn't say, but it's still Red Dwarf. It was still bad Red Dwarf. But
when I watched with my dad, I think his favorite episodes were the last day and Rimmerworld. I just remember watching them with him, and he was laughing. He was on the phone to his friend saying, "I saw this episode. You should have heard these jokes that Crichton was making about the afterlife, the iron should lie down under the lamp, and all this." And all his favorite bits were from that. Didn't really see much of him after that, but anyway.
Yeah, see, I was the same with my dad but it was Time Team, so we used to sit and watch that all together.
Yeah.
So. And Dad did a review of Time Team when he passed this year. So, because one of his favourite artists from Time Team, he passed, I think, the week just before him.
Oh, I see.
So, it was sort of a memorial because they were talking about relaunching it. My dad passed away. His favourite artist passed away. And I thought probably a good time to talk about a 20-year programme and just give it a flying discussion.
Yeah,
I still watch Time Team. I love Time Team. I like watching I like the Roman. My dad liked the Neolithic, but he was a stonemason, so anything to do with stones, he was into it. I was a stonemason, but it was only a job to me. He really got into it. He used to save. He used to had the rock collection. Now putting the quartz in and the tumbler and all shining up and stuff like that. So he was into geology and stuff like that. So he loved Time Team. So, but I'm the same with Red Dwarf, whereas my kids got into it with me, and that's why me and my daughter did the two Rimmers. Going to a Comic-Con, met Chris Barry. It's because he grew up watching it, so it's always been on the TV since she was a kid.
Yeah.
So, but that's the way I look at it. It's Red Dwarf. Yes, it's the same as Doctor Who. I can love Doctor Who, and I can point to the episodes that are total trash or really bad, but still interesting. So I can still be critical of programs I really like. So that's why that's why I decided to do a review program, because I can be critical and I can still love something.
Yeah.
And that's the ideal. It's if you can't criticize something, then there's no point. And if you can't love something, there's no point. So you have to have that happy medium. And Red Dwarf definitely fits it for me. It's the happy medium. I can love it. I can criticize it. Doctor Who, I can love it. I can criticize it. Movies, I can love and criticize. But it doesn't make much difference. As long as because there's programs I won't watch because I just dislike them immensely. But there's programs I can watch up to a certain point and think, well, the rest of that I'm not going to watch, or I'm not going to bother about, and I won't even get the DVD. I think Coupling was one of them. I loved the first 3 seasons, but the 4th season was junk. So I didn't see the point in actually getting the 4th season on DVD because I knew I would never watch it.
How many seasons did it last?
4.
All right.
The first 3 seasons were fantastic, but Richard Cole, when he left, he was one of the 6 main characters, and he was the funniest one. So it went downhill from there. They were trying to bring someone in, and it wasn't as funny. But truthfully, the story could have ended in season 3. They think they only brought it forward because they got money to do it. And it's never an idea if you think you've got an end to a story. So season 4 doesn't work. I think I picked it up a few years back because I got it in a charity shop for something like 50p. So anyway, but I never bought it. I wouldn't go out and buy it. There's a couple of TV programs like that. I'll buy the first couple because they were good, but if I think they've come to a natural conclusion and I don't like the rest of it, it's the same as like that 70s show. Season 8 is rubbish. So I stopped at season 7. I never got any further than that. I watched season 8, but it was just what was his name? Topher Cole. He played Eddie Brock's Spider-Man movie. He basically was Eric Foreman. He was the main character, the everyman that you see everything from, and it just wasn't as good when he left because they tried to add other characters in and it didn't work. Even Ashton Kutcher was in it, and he left roughly about season 7. So I didn't like the Ashton Kutcher characters, but the same again. They tried to bring somebody in that sort of matched it, and it didn't work either. So just one of those things. And that's why I'm glad Red Dwarf haven't tried to change their characters. They obviously did with Holly, changed it from Norman to Hattie. It basically sitting right in front of me with the autograph, and it just went click out of my brain. No way, goodbye. And I hate that when that happens. They just sit there going, ooh. But they've done it with that, but they got away with it because of the way they had brought her in. It was an alternate version, so bringing her in, it wasn't too much. And as people said, her comedy, she was known as the female Norman Lovett, so they had a very similar sense of humour. The way they deliver their lines, their personalities were similar, so it wasn't too bad. You can imagine if they just brought in somebody, oh, well, we need this type of person, so we want to bring in more male, so we're going to have this. Like the American one, the one that played Daphne and
Jane Leaves.
You imagine if they brought her in. She's very funny, but I didn't think she worked as Holly because Holly's got a very particular sense of humour, as it were. And I think hers was just too
plain Jane.
It didn't sort of fit it as well. Whereas Hattie did, because she had a very similar sense of humour and delivery.
Yeah.
And it got away with it.
I'm glad that American version failed.
So am I, because that's what they were gearing up for, a movie, and it was the American version, the pilot. If that was successful, there was going to be a movie. That's why they brought Chloe Annette in. And then when they realised it wasn't going to go anywhere, they just dropped it. Which brought her in as an alternate reality version of Kachansky. It would have been better if they could get Claire Brogan in, but
yeah.
Unfortunately.
I was going to say, I think originally when they were going to launch Red Dwarf, like the BBC weren't interested. They were like, we're not doing sci-fi because obviously, you know, they were starting to have a dim view of Doctor Who at the time, and
and they didn't want a sci-fi sitcom.
No, and well, the thing is, apparently at one point they were thinking of, well, what if we went to Channel 4? Because Channel 4 they were big on the scene. They started doing Channel 4 movies.
Yeah.
But what if we did Red Dwarf as kind of a movie? And I kind of, because I wonder if it had been a movie, would it have been kind of a bit more like Infinity Welcomes Careful Drivers? Maybe?
See, that's what I was thinking. I think if they'd gone down the movie, it would be I would think it would probably fit into the cult classics.
Yeah.
But it wouldn't be as popular. And I think, all the things you see throughout the seasons, they would have had to cut all that down. And I think it would have been one of maybe a couple of movies. Yeah. And I think, maybe even a couple of movies just try to cover Infinity. So, I think
there are bits in that book. There are bits in that film, in that book that are unfilmable, aren't they? Because they're just
yes, there is a lot in that. The books that are unfilmable. You can understand why even the bits they filmed, they've sort of tailored.
Yeah.
But it's fun. I'm going to restart after season 13. I'm literally going to restart book it a week, just one book a week. And so I'm just going to restart Infinity Welcomes Careful Drivers. And I'm just going to listen to that a couple of times over the week.
Oh, we got Backwards and Last Human to do as well, haven't we?
Yes. So you've got the Infinity Welcomes Careful Drivers, Better Than Life. Then we could decide what direction we go with that. Do we do backwards first, then The Last Human, or do we do The Last Human and backwards? Because the two of them are a sidestep rather than actually both a continuation of each other.
Yeah, they're both a sidestep, but I think Last Human was the Last Human came out first. But then again, I don't know. I feel like Backwards is far more the natural follow-on, whereas
I think so. See, when I remember at the time when I listened to The Last Human, because it's been a few years since I listened to that one, I thought that felt more like a prequel.
Yeah.
Just the way things were done in it, I could have just seen them done earlier on.
Yeah.
And within the series of books. Maybe it's because they had some of the ideas they had just developed from the show, which was some of the earlier jokes. They just brought them in because they'd taken stuff from the books, put them into the TV show. Maybe some of the things they did in the TV show they brought into the books, and that's maybe why I thought it seems more like a prequel. But it was definitely a sidestep rather than a thing. So, but yeah, we'll do that. We'll do Infinity Welcomes Careful Drivers. So that'll be a fortnight. So next week's going to be season 13 with yourself, Wendology, Darren, and a couple others I've got to send a link out to, and hopefully they'll join us and we could a panel discussing the minisode, whatever they want to call it, because it was an hour and a half, so it was effectively like 3 half-hour episodes all in one. I think it was an hour and a half. Promised Land, the minisode. But we'll do that, and then we'll go on to the books, 4 books. And then after that, I am going to take a sidestep and do comics for a while. And then I'm going to actually start doing videos again. So I'll talk to myself for a wee while, and then I'll just edit a video into it and just put them out every so often and go from there. But I've got a lot of things I want to do, and I've just not got the time to do them all, because I want to do Blake 7. I want to do Babylon 5. I want to do Stargate. There's so much I want to do, but never get the time, unfortunately, nowadays. I just need to win the lottery so I don't have work to do, because that's interfering with all my broadcasting time. So we'll start with episode 1. Cured. Cured, if you remember, is the one with Adolf, Messalina, Stalin, and Vlad, as well as Professor Telford. A funny thing was, this is the 4th mention of Mr. H.
Yeah, he's appeared 3 times, hasn't he?
He's appeared 3 times, but he's been mentioned 4 times. I don't want to mention his name because you know what the algorithm does with it.
Yeah. No, but I mean, this is his 3rd appearance in the show.
Yes, his 3rd appearance in the show, but his 4th mention in the show.
Yeah.
Because he appeared in Waxworld.
Yep. And Time Slides.
And Time Slides, because that was Lister actually saying, "Don't listen to him, he's a wacko." So,
and that was from Rimmer's Fascist Dictator Monthly.
Yes, and then he was also mentioned in the one when they were the time one again, where is the
Out of Time, yeah,
Out of Time, because it was mentioned how they used to have dinner and meals with them, and as long as you didn't talk politics, he was a very nice. So yeah, it was the 4th time he was mentioned, but 3rd time he appeared.
One of my favorite lines in this is when Mr. H is trying to talk to Lister, and they're trying to get him to jam, and it's like, nah, I can't jam with you, okay? Like, and he goes, "It's because I'm Hitler, isn't it?"
Aye. And he goes, "No, I just don't have my guitar." There was aspects of this I must admit I quite liked, and I think that Ryan Gage, I think it was. It's not Cage, it's a G. Gage, Ryan Gage, who played Hitler. He was actually extremely funny.
Yeah,
and I must admit, I like that selfie.
Yeah,
and even walking in with his tray, lifting the tray down, his hands still up.
Yeah.
Things like that. It was a nice wee parody of it. Probably a better parody than some it's been out there, I must admit. But I must admit, the very first time I saw it, I thought something weird, because, we've only ever seen Vlad the Impaler pictures. Messalina I had never heard of. Stalin, I thought, looked a wee bit like some of the old pictures of him, but Hitler just didn't look like him. He just looked too smiley, even though, yes, it's all to do with that aspect of it. But even at the time, I thought there's something weird about it, because,
well, they were trying to hint that this is a Hitler with all his negativity removed. So this was it was almost like he'd been kind of rejuvenated.
Yes,
back to being a trendy hip youth or something.
Yes, I had the art college type thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But even at the time, I thought there's something weird, because it didn't look enough like him. Whereas the other, Stalin was the only one I could actually compare it against pictures. But because I liked Second World War stuff, and I'd read a lot of books and seen a lot of pictures, it just, with him looking like him, I thought they could have got a better material, or even better makeup to actually do it that way.
If you've actually looked back into history of, like, if you studied the history of World War II and Hitler and Stalin, you realized, God, a lot of focus is on one, and whereas Stalin's like, he was just as bad, and people forget that.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, it's two sides of the same socialist coin. The Americans called him Uncle Joe, and it was because they were on the same side. So same side, they didn't actually think about it. But Stalin killed 27 million of his own people.
Yeah.
Hitler.
see,
But if at that they reckoned he was
like,
well
because
during the war it was 27 million Russians died, and they reckon 2/3 of them were killed by Stalin alone. The rest of them were killed during wars with the Germans. So
like, well, it's like the thing is, like, the way we were taught it, like, Stalin was like, he was a mad dog from when he was young. He was a vicious street fighter. He loved violence, and I think that was kind of the speculation. Did he get involved in the revolution for political reasons, or was it just that he loved the violence?
well, you look at it, basically him and 3 others, and gradually he removed them, but not only removed them, he removed their pictures. So any picture with them all in it, they were physically removed from the picture. The pictures were all doctored to remove them. So gradually he got to the point where the history books had only pictures of him. So all the pictures that had the 4 of them, gradually you could see pictures with 3 of them, and then 2 of them, and then just him, because as he gets rid of them, he basically removes them from the history books in Russia. So the pictures and all that just got edited.
Yeah.
So it was basically very ruthless. Yeah, I mean, that's why the Russians nearly lost it, is because he was so ruthless that he basically imprisoned or executed all his generals. And
Cam's in the chat. Hello.
yes, hi Cam. Glad you joined us.
Yeah, just walked in on our.
Yeah, we're just actually building up to it. We've not even started. We're just actually started talking about the actual real life people behind the first episode.
Yeah.
So we'll get there eventually. But yeah, it's because I think Stalin, yes, and it was a simple fact is he was on the right side of the history books.
Yeah.
So for the victors writing history book, they didn't want to have someone on their side who was worse. So they played down a lot. Yeah. And the Russians used to deliberately attack Americans just to see how they would react. And then it was a big mistake. Oops. And then they would report to their own paper that the Americans did the attacking and it was their fault. And they would put it into the international press that the Americans did this and did that, and it was an accident because they encroached in their borders, even though it was the Russians sent out deliberately to do it, just to provoke it, just to see if they could get how far they could go. It's always that one step over the line. Or if you don't mind, then maybe another step they won't mind, then another step, and that's what it was. But yeah, mad dog and Englishman, as I say. But I think the history books didn't want to actually turn around and say, well, see the ones we were fighting, we had one on our side which was worse, so they couldn't. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but based on that, I think there was some aspects in this I thought they screwed up.
Okay.
Like for instance, when they were jamming.
Yeah.
Lister could actually play the guitar rather than play it really badly. But he actually was playing it sort of competently. Because you look at some of the later episodes, they talk about his guitar and how bad it is and what they do. And like, there's a bit with going down to the airlock, the soundproof one, or yes, I remember a guitar because my teeth are still, my eyes just recently uncrossed. So they always talk about, they've been doing that for years. Like you look at Sirens.
Yeah.
That's how you think you play, whereas it's really bad. So,
but and also don't forget Emo Hawk. Like at least Mr. Lister's guitar survived intact.
Yes,
not even Mr. Lister's guitar survived intact.
Exactly. So basically, they always had a dig at it. But this one, he manages to play competently, and I think, why did they change it like that? And was it just so the others could moan that he was jamming with them?
Maybe. I mean, I think it was just that I don't know. I mean, were they trying to hint that maybe he'd matured a bit or become a bit more seasoned, or that the other guy was kind of making up the deficit, was playing it so well that kind of overcome. They kind of almost synchronized.
Yeah, could have been, but it just seemed really weird that considering even after this, they talk about how bad he is. But in this episode, I've actually for an intro episode, I didn't think it was the strongest. I think other episodes would have been better in this one.
I thought it was. I mean, I thought it was a fairly strong intro.
The only reason I didn't think it was a strong intro is because things that happened later on in the series, this series, it's sort of the first episode counters it, like the guitar and such like. Whereas they make the running jokes up. It was almost like the running jokes were all running up to a guitar joke, and then there's where the guitar joke was the very first episode. And then the other one, the other mentions of the guitar just seemed a wee bit out of place. And that's why I think this one didn't feel like it was initially planned to be the intro episode. It was definitely one of the funnier ones. It's not my favourite, but definitely one of the funnier ones, because there's a few episodes in this I didn't find as funny. I found interesting, but I didn't find as funny. I loved parts in it.
I love the card game in the beginning when
yes,
like Cat just has 5 cards to himself. Like you're not getting any. It's like, what kind of game is that? Good game. And they have to
use your poker face.
Yeah, exactly.
How many cards do you want? 5.
Yeah.
And then at the end, when he says, "See, good pokey face." He says it's poker. He says, "I don't need to do it. I don't need to remember how to say it as long as I can do it."
That was brilliant payoff to that, wasn't it?
Yeah. And it was, because it's sometimes they actually set up a thing that the payoff can be quite mediocre, whereas that one didn't even bat an eyelid.
Yeah.
But see, when they were doing that, I knew what was coming. The very first time I saw it, because I had always said he's very narcissistic. I've been saying that for years, that I'd been saying it before this season actually was aired, that I love the cat because he's very narcissistic. He's a typical cat, all about me, you feed me, the rest of the things I don't care about. So when they were doing to see who was a psychopath, I thought, the cat, it has to be the cat. And that's what's going to cause the problem. There's definitely one of us is, but we can't identify which one. I didn't think they were actually going to say it's you. I just thought they were going to do it, and then they would have to test them individually to see what one it was, and that's when it was going to chip up, because there was only going to be one, and it turned around it was a cat.
Huh.
And I must admit, I did think at the beginning there was something weird about Telford.
Oh, what gave it away?
I don't know. I think it was just one of those vibes. See, when they came in, when we detected you, and it just seemed too calm, too laid back. See, yes, we detected you, and we automatically got activated, or what was the word? He didn't say activated, but you know what I mean. It was resurrected.
Yeah.
Or thawed out, whatever it was. But it was basically, it just seemed very smarmy when he was talking, and it's the typical. It's like you can always tell a baddie in a movie, because he always he comes across as either dead smarmy or dead arrogant, whereas he just came across as a bit smarmy just the way he was talking. I thought he's going to be, it's going to be something to do with him. But I didn't think they were going to be robots, I must admit. I thought they were talking about clones or that type of thing.
I do like when they come across the vaults, and like, what? Adolf Hitler cured.
Aye.
And then Craig goes, Rupert Murdoch still not receiving the treatment.
But see, the thing is as well, people watch that nowadays, even though it was only 4 years ago.
Yeah.
People will be sitting there going, who is he? If it's broadcast in another country, people are going, who is he? That's the problem when you've got something that's quite topical at the time. It ages very badly.
Yeah, I mean, Murdoch had been quite kind of well known for a while, hadn't he?
Yes, he had been, but it was just one of those things. You imagine another couple of years down the line, people just don't know who he is.
Yeah.
But then again, they also had the Michael Jackson jokes in it as well.
Yeah, I spotted them. Yeah.
So that's just Cam just had to bounce.
But I think they maybe broke out this first because it had the feel of like it was reminiscent of episodes that people knew, like it was reminiscent of Quarantine, it was reminiscent of say maybe
it was reminiscent a bit of Time Slides and any of the time hot ones where just because you get the Hitler part in it and stuff like that, and they talk about it did have a wee bit of we've met these people before, so and then obviously with Out of Time because they had actually met most of these people.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So I don't know. It was an unusual one for me just for as a first episode. I just didn't think it worked as well as some of the other ones did. But there is other aspects in this season I think they missed because of the running order.
Okay.
I'm trying to think what one I would have put in the first place instead of Cured. And it's a difficult one.
Time Wave?
I think Time Wave would have probably been funnier as the intro one.
Yeah. Yeah.
I definitely don't think Siliconia would have worked as an intro. And definitely Mechocracy. See, try to pronounce that. And I think Emcor and Skipper where I think they two were round the wrong way. I think Skipper should have actually preceded Emcor. I think Emcor should have been the last one.
Now, see, I disagree though. I think Skipper for me is the finale. To me, that one's the
I can understand why because of certain things in it.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you why when we get to Skipper, why I think Emcor would have been a better end. But don't want to jump too far ahead. So, next one was Siliconia.
Yeah.
What did you think of it?
It was fairly good. To be honest, I think I preferred Cured, but Siliconia was quite good.
See, I thought Siliconia was okay.
Yeah.
I think it was just a wee bit. There was aspects of it I loved. Like the fact is, I know the reason behind it, and because they wanted the guys in the makeup just so they could see what Robert has to go through.
Yeah.
So they had decided to make one like that.
Yeah, but it gave a certain jeopardy to it because, like, it meant that none of them had free will anymore, and like the personalities were slipping away. And you thought, and like in the end, like even Rimmer kind of he becomes Crichton, he becomes a slave, and
no. And the fact is, Chris Barry's been such a vocal gymnast, he just sounded like Crichton.
Yeah.
He had his mannerisms, but that's because he used to do spitting images and stuff like that. So he could get mannerisms from each of them. So, and we've seen that in the past with his cat, his Holly, and stuff like that.
Because we've seen that in the novels. Like he reads the books and he does the impersonations of the characters, doesn't he?
Yeah. Because there was a problem with these things, and also the fact that body swaps.
Yeah,
he's done that as well.
Oh yeah,
but I think Siliconia was good because it gave them a chance to be Crichton.
Yeah,
and see what Robert Llewellyn has to go through every time.
Mm-hmm.
However, there was bits. It was a wee bit too silly, and he was going on about the difference in operating systems and the operating system aspect. I could understand. But the rest of it made zero difference because it's not like it's like the difference between the classic Charlie and the Chocolate Factory and the new Charlie and the Chocolate Factory.
But see, I think
Charlie and the Chocolate Factory had all the Oompa Loompas, which were all different. The new one had the one guy. So, whereas when they're talking about how we're slightly thinner or slightly taller, and you're sitting there thinking, these are all different shapes and you're all different sizes. So that part of it just didn't work. The
I think
or the operating system they were running, I could understand. But when they were talking about the being slightly lighter and being slightly thinner, and I thought it doesn't work because you've got so many different people playing that. So you've not got people of the same size playing it. You've not got people who are slightly smaller playing these ones. They're just basically.
Well, no, I think that what they were doing was I get the sense that with the Mechanoids, they kind of programmed with a certain degree of snobbery about lesser models, like Crichton was when he thought the Lister was a lesser model, didn't he?
Yes, he thought it was a 3000 series or a 2000 series.
Yeah, 3000 series.
3000 series.
Made in Taiwan.
But that's what I'm saying. But the fact is, I didn't have an issue with them. They were talking about the 3000 series, and it was a better operating system they were running. They had a different the matte rather than the gloss type thing, and I thought those two are okay, fine. However, but when they were talking about the weight, the height, you're sitting there thinking all these actors are all different. It's not like they were just getting a Crichton to do like he did with He Ain't Heavy, He's My Brother.
Yeah.
Right, so they didn't get him to play all the parts. And then like Multiplicity, I think it was. They did that. Or basically the Matrix. They had the one guy doing the same thing.
Oh, sorry, Jim. We didn't mean to interrupt your comic book.
Well, you shouldn't be reading comic books. You should be on watching my stream, or just basically just turn the volume down and come back to reading.
But I did like this one because it was kind of you could tell it was Doug Naylor was kind of commenting on contemporary issues and the madness of kind of SJW culture. Because I mean the MILFs. They actually do feel like a very sinister group, and the way they're just this unhinged militant figures who are just, on the one hand, they say they want to to liberate people, but in truth they're just ideologues who are out to crush anyone they don't like or anyone who doesn't agree with them. And they've got their own labor class beneath them, kind of thing.
Yeah. I do think, yes, you are right in that respect. It's just that because they were mentioning different weights and heights, I thought it just didn't work because you didn't have like Robert Llewellyn playing all the Series 3s, and you had somebody else playing all the Series 2, and then, it would have been a hell of a lot of work. I don't think they could have got away with it.
No.
Yeah, I mean, so I think that's the only reason I didn't think it worked. It was because they were mentioning different weight or different sizes.
Oh, hi Neil. Hi Neil.
Hi, glad you joined us.
Neil is hosting the TV movie read along we're doing on Sunday.
Yes.
4:00. Check us out.
Yep. Well, Sunday I've got nothing on this weekend because my friend was meant to be coming down and she had to cancel. So my stream's back on Saturday night, and then Sunday I can sit and relax. So
cool. Right.
I've just had to reschedule everything, so we'll see how it goes. But
sorry, I forgot to mention Jim. Happy birthday.
Whose birthday?
Jim the Viking.
Yeah. Well, happy birthday, Jim. I can't read. As I was saying to Cockney, he basically reads every chat, and I keep on saying I have to either talk or read. I can't do both. I'm a typical guy, one track mind. Like, for instance, I could have watched Red Dwarf while I was editing a video, and I can't because I can concentrate on one or the other. I can't concentrate on both, and if I do that, that's when I start making mistakes.
Yeah.
So what else? There's so much I should do today, but today's my birthday. Did that pop up again, or is that just? It's just actually did a refresh. I think it's just my mouse makes it look as if it's popped up again. StreamYard was playing Merry Hell last time, and it's. Thank you, Jim. Yeah. You're a liar, but thank you. Anyway, Siliconia. That was one of the only niggles. The fact is, you had all the different actors, and they were talking about the different models as if.
So do you think your issue lies in the fact that because we've seen Beyond a Joke, where we're to assume that all the Crichton models look like Robert Llewellyn?
Well, you had Butler, remember?
Yeah. And
that was not the issue. It's just the fact that the issues were all... Well, they did say all those models were meant to be after the creator, so that's why they all looked that way.
Mm-hmm.
However, because you've had Butler in it and stuff like that, slight different sizes and stuff like that, didn't have an issue with. It's only the thing I had an issue with was they mentioned the extra weight, or the slightly thinner and slightly shorter, and that's when it didn't work, because you have Butler and Robert and Butler and Crichton standing next to each other. Butler was slightly taller. So if they're talking about the difference in height makes him a higher, the Series 3 rather than the Series 2, it didn't work because they've got all different sizes. Because you look at them when they were actually doing the MILF ceremony, you had three, the ones at the back with the thing with the gun, or it was a brush. It looked like a gun, but because they were holding it like that. But they were quite tall in comparison to the other ones. So if they're saying that because they're a newer model, they're slightly taller, then what about the ones that are behind them who are taller again?
Yeah.
That's what I mean. It didn't work when they were talking about that aspect of it. They're not looking the same.
You know, I you know what? I do think in some ways I do think this story is almost a kind of a redemption for Crichton, because you know me, I really did not like the way Crichton went in Series 7.
Yeah.
Because I did say this in the chat. There was the that episode Ducked Soup where he basically sabotaged.
I just don't want to be alone and all that.
Well, like I said, what I said in the chat was just struck me was kind of back in The Last Day. You know, Crichton's creator Jim Reaper was saying he needs replacing, he's defective and all this, and the crew are like, "No, you're not. You're still one of us. You're still great, and we're going to defend you." And the problem with Duck Soup is you kind of feel like maybe you almost left kind of. It's like it's kind of vindicating.
It was vindicating Hudson.
Yeah, and it kind of made it look like, well, why did the crew bother protecting him if he was just going to?
He thinks he's going to get left just because. Yeah, I can understand that. And yes, this was a better one, but that was another one as well. They were talking about how season. So what series was Crichton? Because the Series 3 had the matte finish. Crichton didn't have even the same colour.
Crichton was 4000, wasn't he? He was 4000 series mechanoid.
But that's what I'm saying. So it's just a case of, but when he actually turned against them, they went against them. Basically, they had down at the Cleanatorium. And so, in effect, what they're saying is the ones that are below them, they can be the slaves to do all the work. But the ones above them, unless they agree with them, then it was that was the only things I had with the issue with it. It was when they mentioned the weight and the height, that basically annoyed me, just because, well, all the people who are playing the parts are all different heights and builds. So that sort of, it'd be like saying all the Daleks, but so people get into the Dalek outfits and they're all the same height and stuff like that. So you could say the newer models are the ones that are gold and black, whereas the other ones are red, because they're all the same size, so you can make them slightly smaller. But when you've got people actually in suits, then you've got people different weights, different heights. It just doesn't work when they say the reason they're the higher class is because they've got the height. Whereas you look at when they were talking to Rusty, the three guys at the back, when they were saying, "Aye, they've got that lovely matte finish," the three guys at the back are going, "Oh, lovely matte finish," and they were taller than Rusty. And that's when I'm saying that's the parts that it just sort of goes. No,
well, like you mean like the script saying one thing, the visuals are saying another?
Yes, that's exactly it. It's just didn't quite work. If they had left out, if they'd said about the matte finish and the operating system, because you look at your phone, I've got an iPhone 5. It can do the job, but it can't take the newer up-to-date operating system. So no matter what, it's a lower model. So even if you could have upgraded that, you can't, because it will not take the newer operating system. So I can understand the Series 3, Series 4, that type. It would work with it can take the newer operating system because it's more advanced and it's more RAM, more memory, more backup, the whatever, and even the colour. But as soon as they started mentioning the weight and height, that's the part that went, nope, because they're all different. Visually, that didn't work. And that's the thing that took me out. And that's all it is. It was just visually, they said one thing. Audibly, they said one thing, but visually, it made zero sense. And that's the only thing I really had an issue with this, is because I like the gladiatorium or the cleanatorium, whereas basically they threw them and they basically just poured dust over them and they had to wipe each other. I thought that was quite a clever way of doing a gladiatorial thing.
But it was, again, it was the by this point, Lister had completely gone. He was just obeying their orders, and that was I like that kind of jeopardy where it's like from the moment they're kind of engineered, because it's not like Body Swap where it's just this is just a lark. This is just you are enslaved in that body. Like Cat, even the moment where Cat breaks his own finger, that's like, oh, this is serious.
And the fact that the only how far does it go? What one of the androids has the power? Because if they're basically saying that you have to follow the instructions of who,
it's maybe the Stalinist thing of everyone's equal, but some are more equal than others.
Yeah. So there's a collective, basically, like they can promote certain ones, but that's what I was thinking. It's just a case of, so like even when they all come in and the female grabs the cat and holds him up, the other one comes in and tells her to put him down, and I'm sitting there thinking, so they're not all equal. Which you can understand in that aspect of it, because somebody has to organise things. But you would think, so some of them had freer will, whereas all the ones that get incorporated lose their free will.
Well, one of them has to convince the others, don't they? So one has to kind of have the strongest will to, because one of them broke their programming first and got them to form this cult. And I think the thing is, like the one who grabbed the cat, I mean, like she's not going to just, she's not going to stand down just for anyone. She's going to stand down for someone who says, "Look, I'm the elder here. I'm the one who knows how this works. I know how to." So I'm going to decide what's I know how to kind of.
See, that was another thing that annoyed me, because it was very clever how they got round Asimov's first law until you think about the cat where she threatened to snap his neck. So it was very clever the way they did it for the body swap. And they explained it, and you think, so they've just effectively turned around and says, well, that one law has got two contrary. So with your inaction, basically, if your inaction causes a human harm, or you cause a human harm, so in effect, you could actually, if you're standing, if you don't move, something's going to fall. But if you do move, something's going to fall on somebody else. So how would a robot find that?
Well, maybe it's to do with is it possible that actually it didn't apply to cats? Or Homo sapien. Maybe they knew he was a felis sapien, so they knew he was a viable target.
It could have, but then it wouldn't apply to Rimmer either because he's a hologram. You see what I mean? So that's the part I was saying. It's just that they used a very clever thing to get round Asimov's first law.
Yeah.
But as soon as you think about how they threaten Cat, does Asimov's first law actually matter? And if it didn't, why did they give that excuse as if that was a way their programming got round doing something? But as it's like I was saying, like, say for instance you had a robot, and if a robot was standing holding something up, if it let it go, it would fall on man A. But he sees man B falling. And if he doesn't go over to help him, man B would fall and die. So if he does nothing, he's contravening Asimov's first law by your inaction causing a man to die or a human to die. And so his inaction not going to help the guy that's falling. But also you can't harm. So if he actually let go of what he was holding, the other person would die. So in effect, the way they used it was a very clever loop.
Yeah.
Well, if we do nothing, you will all die anyway. So what we're doing is make sure you don't die by backing up your brain and putting it in a vehicle that will survive forever, because they're obviously 3 million year old or so, and it's only halfway through their runtime. So they're using that, and I thought very well done.
Yeah.
Until you think about the cat. So does it work or doesn't it work? And that's for a half-hour comedy. Yes, the jokes are more important. No denying that. But you can't actually put something like that and then sort of leave it, because it, for people who think about things, which a lot of people do, it's one of those you're sitting there going, and some people don't like things like that. And that's the problem. There was wee niggly bits in Siliconia. I just thought was a wee bit weird. And that's probably why I didn't like it as much. And I thought it was okay because there was a lot of good bits in it. Like, for instance, Chris Barry's, the way he played Crichton. Because you can imagine him playing a Crichton, and it would work because he's seen Crichton, he's seen Robert Llewellyn doing it, and he's such a mimic, he could do it.
I thought what was interesting was that, in a way, Rimmer submitted to Crichton's programming, because he said, "I don't want to go back to being Rimmer. I'm more content being Crichton than Rimmer."
Yeah,
because I think that's kind of just testament to how self-loathing he was. That he thought of himself as such a failure that he said, "Well, look, I don't want to hold on to my who I am."
Yeah, and has that not happened before?
Not like
this. It was when he was Ace. Remember when the polymorph Emohawk 2? He took out his bitterness and he says, "Do I need to go back?" And he says, "Aye."
Well, no, that was Ace saying he didn't want to be Rimmer again, whereas this was kind of Rimmer.
Aye, but no. Remember, the first Rimmer we met was an alternate.
Yeah.
Rimmer. This one was he turned into an Ace character because he had his bitterness drained out.
Oh no, so but
he didn't go to the beatnik like he did the first ones.
No. But this was different because this was like, it wasn't even the chance to become as awesome as Ace. It was just he didn't want to be Rimmer anymore. Whereas like with Ace, he preferred being awesome Ace because Ace is awesome. But this was kind of, he was menial life, but it was like, well, I don't want to be the old me anymore. Even.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. In the past, because the first time we saw Ace, and remember he tried to be Ace, and he ended up turning it back, and he died again, and it was meant to be a different Rimmer.
Yeah.
But the fact that it had been seen before that he didn't like himself, so he would actually quite happy to lose emotions just to be a better version of himself. This one, he would still class it as a better version of himself. So that's why he would do it. That's what I was saying. The two of them were similar in that respect. He didn't want to go back, then he didn't want to go back when he in Emo Hawk.
Yeah.
He didn't want to go back, but he had to because it was going to eventually come back. And the same as this one, he had to because.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I thought. It was quite good. There's a couple of things in this season I think are callbacks to certain things. This one reminded me of the Emo Hawk because of that conversation. I don't want to be him again. And I remembered that Ace didn't want to be him again.
Mm-hmm.
It was a slight callback to that. And that's what I remembered it for.
Mm-hmm.
But there was some really good bits in it. But there was some bits that just got on my goat just because sometimes I can be very pedantic. Things that people just go, it's not a major issue. I can still enjoy something and it can still be an issue.
Like, I think
because my brain sees it, and because I can't justify it to myself, that's when I have the issue. Yeah. It's because I can't justify it to myself. If I see something and I see something that counters it, and is there anything else in the episode that I can add to that to go one way or the other? And if it leaves it in such a way that no, I can't actually see something else in the episode that can go, like for instance, the Asimov's Law. I saw the cat bit and I saw the bit how they justified breaking it. The two of them countered each other, but there wasn't a third thing in there that made me think, that would actually, I can understand that. That was just all bluff. No problem. It could have just been all bluff, but because my head can't see anything in there that actually says one or the other isn't true. And that's where the problem was. But a lot of programs, as I said, like when I watched Tomorrow's War, I thought it was entertaining as long as I didn't think about it. As soon as I thought about it, I couldn't watch it again.
Yeah.
Because as soon as you watch it as soon as you think about it, it is so mind-numbingly stupid, it doesn't work.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you try and use the multiverse theory, instead of them traveling back in time, they're traveling to an alternate dimension, it doesn't work. Because the alternate dimension has to be 30 years behind. And if that's 30 years behind and it doesn't affect that, then how come they're traveling back in time? Is it creating a new timeline? Well, that new timeline...
Sorry, which one's this?
Tomorrow's War.
I've not seen it, so
if you like to enjoy something that you think about, don't watch it. If you like switching your brain off and just enjoying something that's entertaining without thought,
so it's a bit like Journey's End then.
Yeah,
the red, the Doctor Who finale.
Well, see, you're talking New Who.
Yeah,
you're talking New Who, and I've watched a few New Who. I didn't even watch right up to the end of Peter Capaldi, and I've only ever watched a lot of the other ones once. I think there's only been one or two I've watched more than once.
Yeah.
So that's the problem with that. But it's just one of those ones. As soon as you think about what's happening, it doesn't work. The whole movie is stupid. But if you just want to switch off your brain, watch it, and not think about it, it's an entertaining movie because there's some good bits in it. Now, Critical Drinker did a good review on it, and I agreed with a lot of that. If you switch your brain off, it can be entertaining. If you want to think about it, you should not watch it.
By the way, what did you think about the way that the MILF cult was kind of convincing Crichton that his whole crew were his slave masters and his enemies?
I thought that was very... See, I thought there was a lot of things in this season where SJW type.
Yeah.
I thought that there was a couple of episodes. There's one in particular is very SJW. Yeah. And I thought the whole thing, but yes, the bit where they were all, they did the stupid, let's all join create a triangle and join hands. And you're sitting there thinking they're going around in a circle. So it's reinforcing the words, even though the words don't make sense. And I thought that's almost like some things that the cult of the left do.
Yeah.
They basically change words or they manipulate the meaning of things. Like, for instance, but I am free. Aye, but did they make fun of your head? Yeah, but if you think about it, friends make fun of each other all the time. That's not really a good point, because you could say, do you make fun of Rimmer's nose?
But see, they were kind of making it cultural, because they were saying, well, look, we're all subject to the same kind of insults, but that's their pecking order against us, kind of thing.
Yes, but as so they were wording it in such a way that they were manipulating the truth of it.
Well, yeah, because each of them was getting a picture of a particular master each one of them had, and it was, they were kind of thinking, oh, these all sound the same. And the more Crichton probably was thinking, well, he sounds horrible. The more I think, well, yeah, my crew did that as well. Yeah, and so I thought that was quite effectively done, kind of thing. And
I think it was, but there's also the aspect of it.
The thing is,
also, like, it's the fact is, like I was saying, if you've got a group of friends, they can all slag each other and say things that nobody else can get away with. However, just because other people use them as insults doesn't mean the friends who are all slagging each other.
But
it was the manipulation of how things that as friends they would say to each other.
But
they were manipulating it.
But the Red Dwarf crew, they're not all friends, are they? There is a pecking order there, because
it's comrades, I suppose. They're basically all in it together, and they won't give up on each other, even though they want to, because they always end up back together, no matter what they think is going to be good for them. They always end up back.
Yeah, but they all know which one of them's the butt of the jokes, don't they? And it's always yeah.
And 90% of the time, it's not really Crichton. It's usually Rimmer.
Yeah.
Especially when the cat's concerned, because I think every episode you've got at least 2 or 3 times the cat has a go at Rimmer.
Yeah.
Even Better Than Life, to me, cat caused the problems.
Oh, yeah.
Because when his father came up and says, "You're such a smeghead," he says, "This is not my thing," and Cat says, "No, it's mine." And it was after that Rimmer started going down that spiral. So to me, it was the cat that triggered all that. It wasn't Rimmer's mind. It was the cat that triggered Rimmer's mind, because in the place where that shouldn't have happened, that happened, and that's what triggered his mind to rebel. So the cat is always has a go, and he's always done from the very beginning, and even right up until now, he still a couple of times will say things like, "You've got we need to adjust in some way. Well, you go out in the back and just leave the rest to us." That type of thing. This is going to blow up and it'll kill you. We beg you, please stay here. That type of thing. So they always have that issue of just the cat always has a go at him. So he's always the lowest of the running. So Crichton's always better off than him.
Yeah. If I had an issue with this episode a little bit, it was maybe the Deus Ex Machina ending. That felt like a really stupid.
Everybody got an upgrade and everybody was fine. Now they're all the same, but they're still going to go out there and look.
It was a bit of a Russell T Davies resolution, wasn't it? Pixie.
Yeah. Do you know the funniest thing about Siliconia?
Let me guess.
The right at the beginning.
Let me guess. It was to do with Lister getting Crichton to. Oh, I know what it was. It was I know it. I remember now. It was the Look, do you want me to unscrew the TV and bring it to you? And
yes.
And Lister just throws in the screwdriver.
That whole aspect, or if my shirt's ready, no, I can't see my face in it. Some things are good. And Crichton, could you bring us a beer? And he leans over and says, "Can you not get it yourself? I just might stretch." And he says, "There's a warning on that." He says, "What do you want me to do? Bring it over." And the screwdriver lands. I thought that was so so well done, because you can just imagine there's somebody that's as lazy as hell.
Yeah.
It's just, yeah, you do all that extra work because I can't be bothered walking 2 feet. So it's not as if you need to walk the 2 feet to show me. It's a case of you need to unscrew the whole bulkhead, take everything off, get all the wires, then put it all back together afterwards, just to save me getting up off my arse. I thought was one of the funniest things. Just the screwdriver. Doink.
You know what I think was one of the funniest lazy suburbanite father kind of gag was there's a film called Mum and Dad Save the World, and I just vividly remember this opening scene where the guy's in the car and he's in the garage, he goes to the car, drives to the drive-through, picks up the paper and drives back in.
I don't think I've seen that one.
It's an old one. It's like, I think it was, I'm trying to remember who was in it. It's like early 90s. This would have been.
No, it's something I need to actually keep an eye out for. Yeah. So I've got a couple turning up for Saturday. So I'm hoping to turn up for my part of the pickup of the week.
Cool.
So because I must admit I'd like doing the charity shops, but this time it was a recommendation. Somebody said while I was on, I picked up a number of things, nice and cheap. eBay's are fantastic for that.
Cool.
Right. So but that's a digression, and it's based on an old movie. But I thought there was bits in this that were extremely funny, but there was bits in this I thought, so that's why I thought this was okay. It definitely, it was one of my least favourites in this season.
Yeah.
But compared to season 9 and 10, it's a masterpiece.
Oh, God.
It is, yeah, I mean.
Series 10 makes Series 8 look good.
Well, that's true. It's just, but I think Series 8 is when it was heading down towards the trough. Season 9 was the trough, and season 10 was still in the trough, but it was starting to turn. Then
it was
season 11 started climbing out.
Series 10 was the rim of the trough, wasn't it? Wasn't it?
Yep. And that brings us on to, I think, one of the funniest ones.
Yeah. Wendology, hello. Welcome.
Hi, Wend. Thanks for joining us. We're only halfway through. We're only at Time Wave. We're just about to start Time Wave.
We're a third of the way through because this is the third episode. We haven't really started with the third yet. So anyway, Time Wave.
Time Wave. Right.
Yeah.
Johnny Vegas. Even that Jamie Chapman and John Sims, or Joe Sims, not John Sims, Joe Sims, I thought were three of the best extras or guest cast there's been so far. Just Tut Johnston, what you in for? Life. What did you do? I tutted.
They drove me to it.
Take me with you, take me with you. I won't do it again. Right back now. Went, oh. I thought it was just the whole Hannibal Lecter thing. What did you do? I tutted. You tutted? I called him an arsehole. What's going to happen to me? And it's just
the bit when Johnny Vegas is saying like, okay, you're going to lay you off with a caution, and like the guy goes, a caution? How dumb is this guy? Like, no.
Yeah, this is the one I thought was it a dig at the SJW culture?
Sorry, I
but
should just
this
say
was all SJW related because not allowed to criticize, and that's how everything's falling apart.
So I just want to say to the Wendology, I'm sorry to hear that about family member. Best of luck to them. I hope you can only pray for the best, I suppose. And then hospital, they're probably in the best hands. They're probably
yeah, definitely send our best.
Yeah.
Sorry to hear that, Wend.
Yeah.
Yep. Not ideal, but we'll we'll continue on.
Well, the thing is, like, it kind of made you slightly sympathetic to the SJ, but to the to this group, because like the diner woman, like when Rimmer and Lister start criticizing her, she runs immediately to the telephone. She cannot handle it. It's like she just feels under attack.
But see, I think, did you know what the waitress is called?
No.
It's waitress Greta.
Oh, this would have been before Greta, I think, made the scene.
It's 2017, 4 years. She's probably been on the scene for about 3-4 years.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I think I loved it because it was having a dig at all the SJWs and how snowflakey they are.
Well, do you think maybe Greta was kind of just if it's a fairly Scandinavian name, maybe they were kind of making a dig at Sweden.
But I suppose in hindsight,
Swedish.
Aye, see, I suppose maybe in hindsight it was just a generic name, but in hindsight, it sort of, to me, it feels more like a dig. There's somebody who does things, and as soon as you criticise, it's, oh my God, don't do that, help me. And it's
see, no, I disagree there, because I think Greta is the doomsayer, isn't she? And the point of this episode was these were so absorbed in their incompetence that they didn't even see doom was coming, and it was like the critics were the doomsayers.
Yeah, but whereas I see the Greta one is basically you're not allowed to criticise, because as soon as you criticise, then you're oh my God, how dare you criticise me? Do you know I'm just a young... No, it makes no difference. If you actually talk crap, doesn't matter what your age is. So that's the way I look at Greta. Is if somebody... It's the fact is, I think this was having a dig at it, and I loved it because I thought it was having a dig at it, and it shows how, if it continues on, the state of our society is going to be. We might as well take a head dive into an exploding planet.
Yeah.
And I must admit, I would have preferred that actually they just ended up having just to walk away, because there's no saving some people, which it proved at the end. There's no saving some people just by how that's episode, how it ended.
See, like it made that point, but there was kind of the crew themselves were discussing this, because they were saying, because they were saying, well, how does that it's got the point to make, but how does that relate to the characters we have here? And like, because this is credits going to the Lister. Well, you've been criticized about your guitar playing, and you still absolutely suck, sir.
Yeah, but the thing is, as he said, was criticism's okay. You might take it on board, you might not, or you might take it on board thinking you're improving, whereas you might never improve.
Yeah. But see,
I think it's very similar to the book where Rimmer and his piano playing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's very similar to that. That's what I mean. It doesn't matter how encouraged you get, or how much encouragement you get, or how much criticism you get. If you ain't got a talent, it makes no difference.
Yeah, sure. Just work around me. It's all right.
Yeah. So I just think I liked this episode more because it felt like a complete and utter dig. Because they even mentioned St. Tremble's school. School. Basically, if 100 yards dash, well, you could do it in any direction, or you could just sit and paint, or you could just sit up in your room and paint and draw, watch the TV. You'll still get a participation trophy. So it's having a go at the participation trophy generation. Then it was having a go at you're not allowed to criticise, or you're not allowed to say mean things to people. Doesn't matter if it's because if somebody takes it as criticism, then how bad is that? And you could be arrested for it. Nowadays, especially now with these new hate crime laws in Scotland, you can effectively end up in jail because you're not allowed to use the word ugly to describe someone.
Really?
Yeah, you could end up in jail if you call somebody ugly, because that is basically it could cause offence, and if you cause offence, effectively it could call under the hate bill. Hence the reason why I think this episode This is how the Scotland ship is going. It's going to crash and burn. And I'll be the guy going, yippee-ki-yay. So I will. And it's just unfortunate. That's the state of the country, and I think this is showing exactly the direction the country's going. And I think it's going to spread.
But I mean, it's interesting that Rimmer himself says, "Look, I feel quite comfortable here because I've always been a failure, and I feel like I'm."
Yeah, he did initially. That's exactly what he said.
Yeah.
Until he got scolded, and he wasn't allowed to say anything because there was no consequences.
Yeah, that's
the part I thought. There, even Rimmer realizes that there has to be some type of consequences, or else nothing means nothing.
See, the bit when Lister chips in with the criticism as well, I wasn't sure. That seemed a bit. That's a bit dumb. Why did he chip in? That was kind of the.
Well, yes, I know it's me criticising because we didn't ask for this, and this food looks disgusting.
Yeah.
I thought it was a bit silly with him chipping in just for the sake of chipping in. But when they also gave one of the funniest lines.
Yeah,
it's the directions from a drunken Scotsman made more sense than that. And there's just bits and pieces throughout this. Even if an episode is good or bad, doesn't matter. There's still epic parts. Like, for instance, when we were talking about Cured, the pokey face.
Yeah.
That was just one of those things. You can just imagine if somebody playing cards, this is my pokey face. And other people like Red Dwarf, just a big grin because they know where it's coming from. And it's the same idea as you get nice wee one-liners. And that was one of the ones that I liked. The directions from a drunken Scotsman made more sense than that.
Yeah.
But I think this is one of those ones. I do think it's one of the ones, it's either you love it or you hate it. I think there's very few people who would actually fall in the middle with this one because it has got strong messages about strong messages. Whereas I loved it because I thought it was taking the piss. But other people might love it because they think, see, that shows you it would work. And it's interpretation, I suppose, isn't it? How we all think about it. But the Ziggy character was probably one of my most annoying characters in this.
Which one was he? Was he the
He was the captain or the one they first met with it was dancing around like a duck and drew the pictures.
I did love the bit at the end where he's like, I'm going to give you this special gift, and it's that drawing he did.
He did, and he says that's no very good. And then it was basically no, put the criticism back, critic, and then that's basically when that basically to me shows how no matter what happens, as soon as you say no, this doesn't work, they'll say that's true, it doesn't work until you criticize them, and then it's a case of no, we need to get all these back because it's suddenly hitting me. It's the same as like you get all these Twitterati. They'll slag you and they'll troll you until it happens to them, and then suddenly this is terrible. But they've been doing it in the past. But as soon as somebody does it to them, it is disgusting, and should be stopped. It's that to me. That's what that reminded me of.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, Wendy, Johnny Vegas, I must admit, was hilarious. I'm not a big Johnny Vegas fan, and I thought he was funny as anything in this one. I loved the. I'm sorry, I made this uniform. Yeah, I mean, made it a mockery, a pink policeman uniform, and he was apologising for making a mockery of it.
I was like, they made it illegal to criticise the criticism law. The idiots are like, oh, that felt good.
Oh, and he's standing there going, your shoes you don't sit your shoes. Oh, and I thought it was just hilariously funny. I enjoyed it, and I think, considering I'm not a big Johnny Vegas fan, I thought he was absolutely brilliant, and it just sort of suited him. Even the bit when he's running past him. Excuse me, sir. do you know why I pulled you over? He didn't want to actually shout at them. He stopped them because that would be even the bit when he's saying, look, oh, you saying I'm not paying attention, not being focused and all this.
Yeah.
No, that's not what I'm saying, because it's a twist in anything.
Yeah.
You're mistaken. No, so you saying this and you saying that. It's basically, I like that aspect of it because it just goes to show how limeys can be twisted. Which is unfortunately because it can show how limeys can be twisted to turn it to whatever way you want it.
You know what? I was thinking last week you talked about Samsara, and I made the comment of it felt like almost a mashup of Red Dwarf and another sci-fi comedy show. And, well, this felt similar, but it was like this was a comedy show another sci-fi comedy show. Like I think I probably would have. You could have watched a spin-off like that about it, and that would have been quite fun.
How funny would it have been? But because you would have known it'd be very tropish. I think that would be very tropish. Unless you think about it, how many tropes about SJWs or things like that could you get away with? Considering the things they did, because then it would always go back to the same thing, and it would be very tropish. And I think they would have to actually be very careful how they did it to make it funny, because otherwise it would just go into the constantly reverted back, because as soon as somebody tries to do something, as soon as they would have to word it in a way that didn't sound as if they're being critical, but being critical. And how many times they could do things like that. But it did seem like a bit of a mashup.
Yeah.
But
I mean, it was a mashup with a better show than Samsara.
Yeah. See, Wen's the same. She's not a big Johnny Vegas fan as well, but he was quite funny in this. I must admit, he definitely suited that role.
Now, last time you talked about the ending felt a bit abrupt. Would you say that they've improved this season?
Let's think.
Because I thought this was a good payoff. I thought
what
pokey face,
because the pokey face.
Yeah.
Siliconia, I thought it was just at least they sort of tied it up. It didn't seem too bad.
Yeah.
This one, I thought it was a good payoff, I'd say. It was a good payoff because it just goes to show no matter what you do, people always revert to type, and they had to get out of there.
But I mean, it was a good payoff because it was like a callback to the paintings we saw earlier.
Yes.
Oh, that was geniusly done.
I think this one definitely, Time Wave is definitely one of my favourites in this season. And I did think it actually ended well. I still loved the Joe Sims Tut Johnston. Yeah. I just thought that was hilarious. I'll not do it again. I'll never do it again. Right, get back in jail. Oh.
I love the fact that he's to this society he is their he's done up as Hannibal Lecter. So at first you think he's going to be this horrific figure, and all he did was tut in the queue.
Yeah, and it was even the fact that there's a society that if you kill someone, nobody can criticize you because you felt like doing it.
Mm-hmm.
So, how far could they have gone with that society, and how it would be more along the lines of being on the Angels and Demon ship?
Yeah,
because you can't criticize something for anything they do, to the point that they could do anything. Mm-hmm. As long as they know they can't be criticised, or like the Johnny Vegas cop, the crit cop, he basically says, "Did you help them?" I did. So, well, as long as you don't do it again, it's basically on your way because you admitted your faults, and we all have faults. And it was basically, it's just that type of thing. So how, if the Tut Johnston just turns around and says, "Oh, I didn't mean to do that. I really apologise," then why would they do it? But they let other people off because they know they've crossed the line. There was wee bits like that, but because they weren't over the top with certain things.
Yeah.
It was only the Johnny Vegas, the Crit Cop, because the other ones, but I did like Rimmer's conscious.
Well, no, I think the point was, the thing was, they forgave failure, they didn't forgive criticism, and they forgave him because he failed as a cop.
Yes, but remember they walked in just after he was criticising.
Oh, did they? Did they actually touch him?
They came up behind him as after he was criticised because he was giving it as they walked in.
Hmm.
And that's what he says. Did you let them escape? And he says, yes, I did. And that's when they apologised for that. So it's almost like they completely ignored the rest. But yes, they let him off with the failure. But they walked in when he was doing the criticising and he was moaning to himself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I think it was definitely one of the funniest episodes, and I enjoyed it more because I think they were actually saying, see, this is the dystopia you are all going to end up on if things don't turn around.
It was refreshing to see Red Dwarf actually do. Well, it was refreshing to see TV that was critical of the way things were going, wasn't it?
Yes, it was very good to see that, even as a comedy show. That's what a comedy should do. It shouldn't actually turn around and hit you over the head. It should just poke fun at certain things that you should be looking at and thinking, yeah, that is stupid. How can you do that? It's the same idea. That's what they used to do in the past with Love Thy Neighbour and stuff like that. You laughed at those type of people. You didn't take them seriously. You laughed at them because that is the way to get the message across that how stupid is this. I would love more and more people to see this episode because it just goes to show how stupid what people are aiming for can be. And that was a funny how it would end up, whereas you think about it in real life, it's going to end up very seriously. You look at the guy who made a meme in a computer game, and it's a valid one. And it's no something that the game industry can control. And he got sacked because people complained because it was mean. Because he had a picture of a female gamer and a male gamer. The male gamer had the wee picture in the corner and the screen on his game. The female gamer had the wee picture of the game in the corner, and it was a picture of her sitting with a quite revealing top. And he says, is this accurate? And most people, even female gamers, says, because there's certain people who play it, they're only playing that as an incidental. It's the fact that they want people to look at them and pay them money. That's why they do it on Twitch. You've got female gamers are turning around saying, the guy did nothing wrong, he's basically right. If you look at a proper gamer, male or female, they'll have the wee picture in the corner and they'll have the big theme. If you look at exhibitionists, male or female, they'll have themselves on the screen and the wee computer game. But the guy lost his job. And how many people would hire him after he lost his job for that reason, just in case the Twitterati come after them again?
Yeah,
I mean, again, a company should just turn around and go, tough. You know what I mean? The 1% of 1% don't matter to me. It's that type of thing. Oh, by the way, don't actually buy my products if you don't like the people I hire. How many people actually on Twitter actually buy their games anyway? So,
I think there's a guy on YouTube called Louis Laveau who's he's commented a lot on how this is infiltrating the game industry and the movie industry, and he's very good. He's very because he was himself a leftist, and he kind of started to see the left become much more militant about kind of censorship and all these kind of new laws and how they're just making things worse, kind of thing.
Yeah, basically they're trying to. If they can control how you speak, then they control how you think. Because if you know you're not allowed to say certain words, then you'll think, oh well, I'll just use whatever words they tell me is okay to use, and then suddenly they're controlling what you can say and what you think, and that's what that's the George Orwell, that's the Communist Manifesto. Because if they could tell you you're not allowed to criticise, that's what I said. See this hate bill in Scotland.
Yeah,
you imagine actually criticising any of the current government. They just need to twist that and say you're only criticising me because. So if you're a woman in power or if you're a minority in power, the only reason you're criticising the government is because of this person or that person. So suddenly, if you don't like the SNP, It's because you're sexist, misogynist, because it's run by a woman. But that's nothing to do with the party. The party is irrelevant compared to whoever the people are. And that's the part. It's they're going down. They're basically trying to control what you say in your own home. Because if like kids, I mean, you could go in. You say, for instance, your kid did something wrong. You told them not to do that. Don't do it again, or else you get a smack. They can go in and say, "I was told I'm going to get a smack." So suddenly you're reported. But kids don't tell you the full story. They'll tell you the part that they remember. And it's the same again. If you were talking about a particular person, the kids won't know the context of it, but they might hear one phrase, and that's the phrase they'll repeat, and suddenly you can have the police at your door. You know what I mean? Or else you could tell a joke that was like, you look at that girl in America. She basically was invited up by a rapper to sing one of his songs that had the N-word in it. She was white, and she got lambasted. She basically got death threats and everything because the artist who wrote the song invited her up onto the stage to sing, and because she sang the words he wrote and the words he sang, because she was white, she was getting death threats because she said the N-word.
It's ridiculous.
And you're sitting there thinking, so what you're telling people is, if you're white, don't buy my music because you're not allowed to sing it. And that to me shows the craziness aspect of certain things. If you have an issue with that word, that people saying it, then you can't expect people to buy your music, which has that word in, unless they're of that demographics allowed to say that word, because they're not allowed to sing it, they're not allowed to think it, but you're saying it. So
I mean, like if you're kind of a rapper, then you can say some of the most horrific stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Anything, but it was basically that was the one, and it was because she was white and she was invited up and he chose the song they were singing.
Yeah.
Suppose if she says, "Can we sing this?" He was choosing the word. He chose the person to come up and sing it with him. But as soon as she said the word that was in his song, people started booing her. She was getting death threats. She had to leave the arena. They were talking about even reporting her to the police because she said a derogatory word. And you're sitting there thinking, so where's the artist in all this? He was the one that chose the song and invited the person up. So he must have known what was going to happen. But he did it deliberately. So, and to me, he's effectively turning around to everybody and say, unless you fall into this minority, do not buy my music because you will get you arrested if you sing it.
Well, I mean, the thing that annoys me about that is like, if she'd chosen not to, if she'd chosen to substitute the N-word with brother, because sometimes that's what I've seen white girls rapping, and they'll substitute the N-word with brother because they just don't like using that word. And it's like, that comes off as kind of a sincere kind of, I just don't like that word. But now you wouldn't be able to tell whether she's not saying it, whether she's saying that because she feels that way or because she's told she. Because
that's what I'm saying about how with this episode that it was almost a case of lampooning the fact that there's certain things you can't say because it's criticism. As long as it's perceived as criticism, no matter what you say is bad. And right to the end where as soon as he criticises them, even though it's not against the law, they just recreated the law to actually, because it hurt the fifis. And that's the aspect I was talking about. It shows how bad as I said, the Scottish ship is going to go down. I think the Scottish ship is going to go down in a blaze of glory, and I'm going to be sitting in it going yippee-ki-yay. And I see that before the next 10 years. It'll be Chicago and Scotland. Scotland's turned into the British shithole, and it's because of the politics of up here.
Yeah,
I used to be a very strong SNP supporter, but I'm also very democratic. The democracy turned around. They had the vote, and I was in the 45% that says I wanted independence. But guess what? Majority wins. That's part of democracy. If you don't like it, go to a country that doesn't have democracy and you'll have no issues. You like democracy, it doesn't matter. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. But when suddenly somebody turns around and says, well, I didn't like that, we'll need to redo it. No, that's not how it works. You either accept it or you are basically failing in democracy.
Question about Scotland. I mean, I was told, like, typically, isn't Scotland supposed to be quite left-leaning historically?
Scotland used to be very Labour-leaning, so yes.
Because I remember when Labour kept on losing. Like, I remember a guy, because I live in Liverpool, which is quite a very very red city. It's the last. It's to me, it's the last bit of the red wall that didn't fall last year. The year before last. And I remember the guy saying to me, like, there was this saying that something was as rare as a Tory in Scotland, kind of thing. So it was that's how rare it was to be.
Right. I think you used to have the occasional one Tory here and there, and it was usually the islands.
Yeah.
But it is now that SNP are that bad that people are voting for things that they would never have voted for.
Yeah.
They're basically less and less people are voting. So SNP are still keeping the same share, if not less, even though people are disgusted with politics. They're either not voting, which means less and less percentage of the population are voting, or more people are going out to vote and they're not voting for a party. They're voting against a party.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I don't understand. I'm just one of those ones that, sorry, my vote, the vote I wanted didn't work. I don't actually moan and go, oh, well, we need to do it again until I get the result I want. Sorry. you just accept it and move on. Hence the reason why if Scotland turns into a shithole, unfortunately, my vote didn't count to actually change it. Then there's nothing I can do, but people get what they vote for. So the majority vote for it and it actually goes down the drain. I've got zero sympathy for all the people who voted.
Mm-hmm.
If you didn't want it to go that way, vote against it. If the majority vote for it, then the rest of us are stuck. You can't moan about it. It's the same as if somebody says, well, I don't vote. Well, you can't complain one way or the other. If you do not vote, you can't complain at all. But if you vote and it goes against you, you can say maybe better luck next time, or basically don't understand it, but you have to accept it because that's the majority vote. Or you move.
Yeah.
And that's just the way I've always thought about. My dad was a Tory all his life, but as he said, you vote for who you want for. Yeah. He didn't turn around and tell me I had to be a Tory. I voted for SNP. My dad didn't have an issue. Two of us would go down to the voting booth together. Mm-hmm. Didn't have an issue because he voted for who he wanted, not what other people expected of him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And I basically, I do the same. I vote for me. I don't vote for what other people tell me. And if somebody turns around and says, if you vote for that person, we're going to do this to you. Sorry, if that's the person I want to vote, I do not care what other people think.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the thing. That's the way people should. If people vote against someone just because, if they're voting against a person, then that's what it feels. It should be the party and the politics. That's what a vote is all about. If people actually think, well, I don't like him, I don't like her. I don't like Nicola Sturgeon, but it's nothing to do with him or her. It's basically the party I don't like. I don't like the way the politics are turning. But I think if there was somebody I liked in it, I still wouldn't vote for them because it doesn't matter if you like the person.
Speaking of the vote,
yeah,
and how democracy works. Next episode.
Yes, which was a good segue. But I did think this finished well, this one. And Micocracy, I thought had some of the best lines. Some of the weirdest things happen if you think about it. And I'll mention it in a wee minute. And some of the firsts as well. Had some good things in this one.
I'm trying to think of first. Let's see. I know where Cat starts reading for the first time.
Yes, to an extent, but that is not what I'm thinking about. Think about what the cat has said within this episode.
He turned against Lister.
No, what he said. When he turned against Lister, who did he say he was sticking with?
Rimmer.
No, he said he was sticking with Rimsey. He always calls him Rimmer or Nostril Head or
Goalpost Head.
Exactly, Goalpost Head or Trans Am Nostrils or stuff like that. But he's never called him anything other when it's his name is Rimmer. He called him Rimsey.
Yeah.
And he also, it's the first time he actually used Lister's full name. David, was it? What was his name he used? Jekyll, something David Jekyll, Lister, but it was not Jekyll, it was, what was his name? There you go, and Wendyology's actually got it. Wendy, both of them have got it.
Hi, Darren.
Both of them have got it. Never underestimate the power of a swing voter. Toasty talk. Toasty, 26 years later. So you think about it. Can you imagine any other program if somebody shows a toaster that the audience cheer for? Just the sight of a toaster. No lights on it, no talking coming out of it, but just the sight of a toaster. Can you think of any other program that gets that response for a toaster?
Definitely not.
No, because basically the laugh track, you can hear them basically cheering as soon as they saw. You knew what was happening because they kept going on, he's on here, you knew it was Talkie, but seeing Talkie Toaster, people just in the audience cheered. And it does bring a smile to your face when you see a toaster.
Yeah.
And I think, see if they actually made a Red Dwarf toaster and just called it Talkie. And all it said was, do you want some toast? When it was actually ready to pop, they would sell loads of those.
Yeah, fly off the shelf.
They definitely would. All they need, you think about it, just needs a wee thing in front. It just says, do you want some toast? The battery is basically... is heat driven because you can get the heat from the toast as it's about to pop, and all it says just before it's about to pop is, would you like some toast? Doink!
Like,
to
we don't want a toast, no
I
tea
want
cakes
one for Christmas.
Yeah. Like, don't want no toast, no tea cakes, no hot cross buns, and definitely no smear flat tacks. So you're a waffle man.
Well, that's what reminded me from the book.
Yeah.
Because he went through, it was Holly in the book. It listed every single bit of toast except one. In here it was Lister. You're a muffin man.
Yeah.
I just thought, but it was just, I could see where they've got that from. They've obviously taken it from the book, and they basically just, instead of, because Holly wasn't around at the time, it was doing that. But 26 years since Talkie Toaster appeared.
Yeah.
That was Whitehall.
Yeah.
Because remember, it got dumped down there because Hilly got our memory increased based on his recommendations. And Daniel Baker did a lot of the voices again. He was the one that did the voices last season for a few of the machines. He's back in and did the voicing for the dispenser machines and a few of the dispenser machines.
Yeah.
So it was. But 26 years, David Ross returned to do the voice of Talkie Toaster.
Yeah, but it was a bit like, it reminded me a bit of Body Swap in the fact like the story starts with a jeopardy where the ship looks doomed and then it's over, but the consequence of the jeopardy are kind of lead to it. Because
was this the one that started with the patients?
Yeah, that bit was a bit dragged. I think they kind of ran that joke into the ground a bit, didn't they?
I think they did, but I liked the idea of it. And he's going, no, it was patience. It was you were teaching me patience. No, it was manipulation. And head down.
I did laugh at that bit. That bit got
It was that part. It was, yes, the whole way they were getting to it. It was just a case of you're sitting there thinking, well, yeah, of course he's forgotten. It's patience. You're no sit yet. You don't think Lister's actually just making you wait deliberately. He's probably just forgotten. And then it was only that part he came out. He says, what were we talking about? Manipulation. And I was like, oh, God. But that part I thought was hilarious. It's just, yes, it was a big, long, slow, drawn-out joke for that one wee punchline. And that one wee punchline, I think, made it worth it because it was so unexpected. Because you weren't expecting that to pop up. You were just expecting it just to something else. Oh, I forgot, and just forget it, and you were out of thing. But it was just the fact of manipulation, and he's still mopping away between the two of them. How did you go on? It would have been a first.
Well, Darren asked the big question: toast with or without Marmite?
I'm a Marmite. I don't like Marmite.
Nah, mummy.
See, I'm a very fussy one with my toast. My toast can only have margarine on it. I don't like jam, don't like honey, don't like margarine. That is it. I don't put anything else on my toast except that. I'll have my toasties with cheese. I'll have toast with beans and cheese. But I'll not have any other spreadies. I'm terrible at that. My wife says I'm too particular.
I think the only two I'm particular about are marmalade and Marmite.
Yeah, I like marmalade, but I like it in a sandwich, but I don't like it in toast. I don't like anything like that in toast. It's really weird. Because if you're on holiday, I'll go out and get 2 bits of bread and 2 slices of toast. 2 slices of toast with margarine and 2 bits of bread with margarine and marmalade or strawberry jam. Yeah. I don't put them on toast. That's weird. My wife always says I'm a weirdo.
Yeah. Utterly buttly.
Yeah, I'm an utterly buttly man, yes. As long as it's margarine, because do you know why I don't like bar? Because it's usually thick and solid. And you have to shave it off and put it on and hope it just melts in. That's why I like my margarine. And I basically, even if you're on holiday and you get the wee squares that are just out of the fridge, you just put them on the toast until they melt. Then you can spread them.
Wendoll's, you got a few good quotes from this episode as well.
What ones?
And the other one.
What's great about yellow? It means there's a danger and you're not the one in it. That someone's in danger and it's not you. A perilous emergency, you can just kick back and enjoy. Yeah. I did like that. I could just think that is definitely Rimmer.
Yeah.
He's just, you can imagine that. And hi, Captain. Remember, get all those people in yours over to sub to mines. He's at 212. And him and Mr. Brown are going on about how they need to get the 200 sub thingamabob going. I'm only 81, so don't think that I feel bad that you keep losing your 200 and bumping up and down, and Mr. Brown's only getting his 200, still at 81. Not that I'm bitter or anything, Captain, you understand.
Yeah.
But, and it's, there you go, look, I even did that for you. Yes, I know. Basically, they were slagging me on the channel the other night. So, yeah. Yes, basically, Mr. Brown keeps calling me a cat, shall we say. Be polite about what he calls me.
Okay.
And that's because last Saturday we only did 5 hours, 10 minutes. And then when they finished their stream, they came over. But just as we were finishing after 5 hours, 10 minutes. The time before it was 5.5 hours. But I'm a cat because basically I couldn't actually last with them coming off their stream onto mine to keep it going for another 4 or 5 hours at 2 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, I was beat by that point. Because I remember I was
Yes, so basically that's what I'm saying. I was knackered. Me and Jim managed to get there, but he kicked off because his machine eventually crashed. It basically so it did blue screen. They couldn't come back on, so I finished it on all after that. But I was getting slagged, and I'm sitting there thinking, cheeky buggers. But So Mr. Brown's doing a 200 stream special. I don't know what he's giving away or if whatever he's doing. Whereas me, I'm waiting to hit my 100 subscribers and then I'm going to do a giveaway. So I'm a Doctor Who giveaway. So throwing that out there and people are still no sub to me. Come on. And I did actually lose a sub. I went up to 82 and then the next day I checked it was down to 81.
Yeah.
I've always noticed it going up, climbing slowly, but this time I did see it going down. And my analytics says I never received it in the first place, so it just didn't go up. So the analytics don't really work.
I'm never giving away a Doctor Who DVD.
Well, I've got doubles, and the reason I've got doubles is because the cases are maybe the wee punch is missing. And it's because I bought them because there was a silver DVDs. So
fair enough.
And that's why I pick up the ones in the charity shop, even though they're rubbish. If it's a silver cover, a cased DVD, even if I don't like the movie or whatever it is, or if I've got it, I will pick it up as long as the punches, because the DVDs come for the Doctor Who are silver. I've got black cases, I've got clear cases. I do not have any silver cases spare because the two I needed I've used, and that's why I've got 2 spare Doctor Who DVDs. It's the only reason I give them away. It's because they're doubles, and it's because I've had to use the case for something else. Because I want them all the silver cases, so hence the reason why any chance I get, I'll buy other ones.
Yeah. So I think the with the election between Rimmer and Crichton, rather, it kind of saw them descend to real lows, didn't it? In their and how vicious they were.
Yep. Yes. This one was a thing. I lost track of what I was about to say because we went from talkie toaster and then we went off thing and then. See, I told you I can't read the chat and talk and listen. What did you say there? Did you hear the unprotected sex in Doncaster? It was about as unsafe. Because they were basically downloading the SOS virus.
Yeah,
it's as unsafe as unprotected sex in Doncaster. I wonder what they had against Doncaster, because the last time it was Leeds fans. That was the.
I think
the one was Leeds fans.
I think they make fun of all kinds of regions. Like what I remember was we got less choice than the Welsh fish and chip shop.
Yes, and then you've obviously got the drunken Scotsman, or less chance than a fried Mars bar.
Yeah.
So yes, they do, but it's just obviously with London, England. It's basically they seem to do towns rather than, because it's cut up a bit there, because they've had a few goes at a few of them, and I must admit, I quite enjoyed this episode, and I thought it was nice to see Talkie back. Nice to hear David Ross's Talkie back.
Mm-hmm. It was a funny political commentary, but it didn't. The political commentary kind of suited the episode, but it wasn't overdone.
It wasn't overdone. It was basically I think it was done right, because it showed the bad side of it, like for instance the smear campaigns. It showed the smarminess of certain politicians, and it also showed even the good politicians having to go down not very nice and doing things they don't want to do just to get elected. And I quite like that aspect of it. The fact that for instance, he didn't want to agree to do anything for Talkie, but he did just to get elected. And then you can hear things and saying, "Oh, so he signed up with this one, and it's basically against what he stands for." Well, that was the only way I could get elected, if I voted for that. So you can see the slippery slopes as soon as you go into politics. That's what I've said for years. No matter how good you are and what reasons you go into politics, as soon as you're in politics, you're in the shit.
There's a really good book by Isabel Hardman called "Why We Keep Getting the Wrong Politicians," and it shows like how difficult it is to get into that circle. And
people don't want the people in who are there to help. Most politicians nowadays go into politics to line their own pocket. They don't go into it for any other reason. You get the occasional ones that usually start low down, and it's usually local councillors and stuff like that. But the hired people go up, they're caught up in that. Well, if all those people are claiming expenses for that, why shouldn't I? Mm-hmm. Well, it doesn't matter if I think it's wrong, but everybody else is doing it, so it's not technically wrong because it's not against the rules. Mm-hmm. And it just can go from that, and that's the parts where, to me, Terry Pratchett got it right. As soon as somebody wants to run for office, put them in jail and let them run from there. The way I would do it, see any things that a politician passed, they have to live with those rules. So if they actually say things like, there's tax on this, then okay, you're the one that pays tax on it first for a year. And if you find any loopholes, then that tax gets scrapped, because you have to pay it first to see how it works and see if you're happy with it. And if you find a way of not paying it, that's a loophole. It's cancelled. Mm-hmm. And you have to. It's the same idea. Like, for instance, these lockdown rules. First thing is, see if anybody who makes the rules breaks it, they should automatically lose their job and all their benefits from that job. Because if you make a rule and people have to follow it and you don't, then you're already corrupt. End of story. Because you make a rule that you do not believe in, so you should lose your job. End of story. And you don't get any benefits. So if you've got a pension, you've got insurance, you've got this, doesn't matter. You lose the lot. Then let's see the politicians turn on us, because as soon as they lose things, they will start following the rules. That's that type of thing. That's, to me, once I rule the world, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to make every politician responsible for what they say. So if somebody gives a promise, that promise has to be kept. And if it's not kept within time, then they end up in jail.
There's a documentary on the 1980s years of Labour, and they kind of looked at particular character in there was Dennis Healey, who was like the older kind of quite.
I know who Dennis Healey is. Yeah,
but he was like
what do you call him? Above your eyelashes. No, the eyelashes, eyebrows, big, heavy. Eyebrows. Yeah, that's one. Couldn't even remember that bloody word.
I remember, like what have been described as like, look, he didn't suffer fools gladly, which you've got to do in politics. Like, but he didn't. It's a skill you got to have, and he didn't have it. Like, if people were idiots, he told them they were idiots, and he didn't get their votes.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It doesn't matter if you're a Labour, Liberal, Democrat, Tory. If your politics shouldn't matter. As soon as you're in to do something, and just saying, that's why I hate the opposition. Because they only oppose, and they don't oppose because any other reason except your opponents suggest it. So you would have Labour turning around saying, we want to lower tax for the working class man. As soon as the Tories get in and say, right, we want to reduce the tax for the working class man, Labour go, oh, no, that's not a very good idea, because, and that's you just try to take money out of the coffers. Yeah. So it's, if you were going to do that, if you get in and the only reason you're opposing it is because somebody else says it and it's your opponent, then that shows how you're morally bankrupt. That's the way I look at it. So if you've got Labour turning around saying, if you drop the tax for the working class, then what you're doing is taking money out the coffers that would help the working class. So that's what you were going to do, but because you're in opposition and they want to do it, you're opposing it. And that's how you can see a lot of them are actually morally bankrupt, because they're doing it just because their opponents are saying one thing, they're saying the opposite for no other reason. If they could put to a proper argument why they didn't believe it, even if it was a case of would you do it in your office, no, and they give a reason.
Do you think, in a way, it shows that Rimmer would be quite, in his scuzzy way, would be very good at that job?
Rimmer?
Because, like, he adapted the game of politics well, doesn't he, in this?
Yes, he actually suits it. But then again, as I said, he's a sneaky, underhand, only out for himself type of person. So he basically would fit in quite well.
Well, you know they say, don't hate the player, hate the game.
Yes, but it's the people who are playing the games make the rules, and that's the problem. So basically, if you say don't hate the player, hate the game, that's for games with rules. But if somebody goes in and makes their own rules and expects everybody else to follow them except themselves, then yeah, I'll hate the game.
No.
Yeah, I mean, because that's politics. Unfortunately, is a game, and it is a game that they make the rules up for themselves and expect other people to follow them, because they have no intention of doing it for themselves.
No.
You look at it, they basically used to say things like, oh, politics was only open to people with money. See, aye, but at least the people with money didn't screw out the country to get their expenses and their 2 homes paid for, because they had the money and they had that. They were just using politics as something just to do, and because it was a higher prestige. They didn't. The money wasn't what they were in for. As soon as you started letting people in and they could make a living, and a good living from it, then that's when you started getting all the shysters in.
Yeah. And
that's the problem. As soon as somebody knows they can make money from something, all their good intentions can go bye-bye. So I'll stick to the Terry Pratchett quote.
Yeah.
But I think this one worked just for the simple fact is it would have actually been funnier if Rimmer won. So it would have. And then it just sort of showed you, like they did, remember they did last season with he promised the lift to get him a move.
Yeah.
And just down the line, every time he came up to a thing, and he realised he didn't get anything, suddenly he was getting nothing. The lifts wouldn't work. His light bead couldn't get charged up because of all his promises, and I think that would have been a funnier, just to go, haha, I've won. Yeah, but look at the outcome. Yeah. Things are falling apart to the point you can't get things done. And that's what I thought would have been a funnier one. But it had to end the way with Crichton winning it, so it did.
Well, I mean, you kind of rooted for Crichton after, Rimmer brought up his kind of stint with the skeletons on number 5.
I was disappointed with that.
Oh?
They didn't use the actual picture from the actual episode. They just showed a load of skeletons sitting around a table. They showed the picture of the old Crichton banging his head.
Mm-hmm.
But this one, they didn't show the picture, even if, because they might have only had the clip of them getting in and name Rimmer kneeling down going Charmita and all that. They might have had that, but there must have been a picture somewhere of the 3 skeletons sitting there, because I'm sure in the episode there is a part where you see Crichton standing out with the 3 skeletons, and that's all it was. They would have been better with that rather than just a generic picture from it, because they showed a lot of ones with Lister, Rimmer in his gingham dress. They showed Crichton banging his head off the wall and stuff like that, but they didn't show the one of, and it's because it had the old Crichton in it, and that's exactly why it is, because it had David Ross's Crichton in it.
Hmm.
So I was annoyed at it.
I think the clip they should have used was the bit where he accidentally knocks one of the girls' skeletons and she lands in a soup head first.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It was because it was the David Ross Crichton. That's why they didn't use it.
Aye.
Unfortunately, but I wish they had. Because remember, they actually turned around and says the reason he's changed is because Lister found him and rebuilt him.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why he changed from when he went on his merry way to when he turned up as a series regular. because in the scroll, it basically explained how they found the crashed bike and he rebuilt Crichton. So it would have been just as good seeing the old Crichton, but I think they didn't want to. But they had. It's not as if David Ross didn't get anything because he was in this episode. It would have just been another wee nod to there you go. You've got Talkie Toaster and Crichton, his two original characters. But it's just a one of those things. It's the same idea with the next episode. There's a bit I thought could have been a bit better.
Okay.
But which goes on to M-Corp. M-Corp.
Yeah.
With only one guest, really. They had a few, Stephen and stuff like that, but it was Helen George.
Yeah, she was the kind of...
she was the psychopathic avatar.
Yeah, but I think she was kind of like, in a way, she was... Yeah, she's quite the...
See, the thing is, initially I thought the whole idea of it was quite good, but then it got silly because they got an upgrade. How did all the things suddenly appear?
Maybe they're teleported on or something, or...
But it was only an upgrade. Remember, it was only because they hadn't pressed the upgrade button. Is it because... Why? But that was the thing I didn't understand. I could understand that there was a bit, maybe something had been shipped out, like the teleporter, it brings them into a VR world they can live in.
Uh-huh.
Yes, but it actually maybe it's like the one of the stasis booth had been amended due to thingy M-Corp with an upgrade, and you go in there and you live your life in there without you would be in stasis. However, you can live out your life rather than just being frozen in time. Your body would be frozen in time, but your mind could still experience M-Corp and work for them under that.
Well, I mean, they wanted human consumers, didn't they? So they probably would want, the people to be living day to day, wouldn't they?
But you think about, look at it under when they teleported in.
Yeah.
Which turned out to be that was what I'm saying, the cycle, because why would they, if they wanted human consumers, why would they use their life, their time? Because they would be killing them quicker, and that means they're getting nothing out of them. Which I thought using your life for that seemed a bit crazy, because you would buy something that would take a couple of years off you, which means they're not getting any money, and you're going to die quicker, which means you're not going to earn this money. You're not, and it just seems a bit convoluted.
Well, that was the programming run amok, wouldn't you say, in a way?
I would, but there had to be some premise of it, because they were just saying that the program had to be uninstalled, not that it was actually corrupt.
Mm-hmm.
So it implied that that's how the program would have run. It's only because it hadn't been all the updates, and all the updates got put in at one time. It overwhelmed the system, and the system started going haywire. Hence the reason why you got all the bits and pieces. I just thought some of the premise was really good. Some of it was flawed, just like the things suddenly appearing.
Yeah.
And the things disappearing, which the perception filter, I could get away with that. I'm trying to think what else used the perception filter, apart from Doctor Who's glasses.
I think they got that from Doctor Who.
Oh, no, I think they got it from Superman.
Oh, okay.
Clark Kent. Because they always used to say the reason people don't recognise Clark Kent from Superman is because his glasses, which must have some perception filter in it, so people can look at him and not see Superman. Like Lois Lane's got pictures of Superman. She stood and talked to Superman. She's gone flying with Superman, but she didn't recognise Clark Kent, and all it is a pair of glasses on. So that's why they said about the perception filter. That's always been what they reckon it is.
Well, isn't it supposed to be that he... See, I always thought it was just that he was so good at playing Clark Kent as a completely different character that
Yeah.
everyone was so taken in by the act they never thought this guy was Superman.
To an extent, yes, but I think what they started doing is no matter what, you would always see the resemblance between two different people. You think about it, the humans are more prone. They're genetically designed to recognize patterns. Hence the reason why you could show somebody a picture of one side of a face mirrored and they wouldn't recognize it, even though that half of the face they would the full face they would recognize, but because the pattern's sort of slightly off, because they've recognized a pattern in your face, that's why the babies can bond so easily with the parents, because they've seen them when they were the thing, and that is the bonding, and it's a recognition. So like they say with young kids, like if you cover your eyes and play peekaboo, they wonder how kids can actually find that entertaining. It's because it's the eyes. So as soon as you don't need to cover the kids' eyes to play peekaboo with them, and suddenly they move your hand and then they go, oh, if you do that to your own eyes with a small baby and play peekaboo, the baby notes himself because you've suddenly appeared, and it's because they can't see your eyes.
Yeah.
Which is, you think about it, it's just one of those things. It's so the perception filter I could understand, and I could understand it in this because, but I didn't like I could understand the cat, I could understand Crichton, but I couldn't understand Rimmer. They says it's because his light bee wasn't under the control of the M Corp, but Rimmer's employed the same as Lister's employed. So if it works with Lister, why wouldn't it work with Rimmer? Because he is employed and he is being generated by M Corp. His light bee might actually be owned by a third party, but he works and they're paying, or they're basically supplying the power and everything for it. So why would the M Corp not control Rimmer as well as Lister?
I've been having a thought just now that Lister's the human consumer that they want, and in that instance, all the others are expendable. And in a way, it feels like this corporation operates like a cult. So it basically eradicates, any contact you have with anyone outside the corporation.
Yeah.
So like, it wants you to have teammates. It wants you to kind of become,
it wants you to buy what it wants you to buy.
Yeah.
And yes, I did like the cat spraying the can of invisible beer all over Lister.
Yeah.
That, yes, you could see it was coming out his sleeve, but it was a good gag. So if I just shake this and do this and
for me, the funniest bit with the cat was at the beginning when Lister has that heart attack. Well, he has what we think is a heart attack, and Cat's like, "Oh, what's going on?" Okay, never mind. And then he just sits at the table and eats this food.
Do you know what that reminded me of?
What?
The ribs and the spleen and stuff like that. Remember, he'd found him outside Crichton's.
Oh yeah,
outside Crichton's, and he was just he'd done the rib and he'd done the thing, the liver, and he was going about, and Cat walked in. Oh yeah, I could do a bit of soy sauce, and then later on when Crichton mentions it, Cat goes, huh, huh. That's what that reminded me of. It's also when,
do you know what my favorite
was going to get the operation? Remember, Crichton's Cat walks in and eats his soup.
Yeah.
So it's a long running gag. I've done that from near enough day one, and they just keep that gag going at the cat. Yeah.
Speaking of that scene, like I think one of my favorite moments in this has to be with Chippy. Like, and he's like, "I'm sure there's nothing wrong, oh dear." And that chip, kind of.
Yeah. Oh, see. Not the import, the mediocrity one was the cat going, "Don't panic. It's only really dangerous if that slow, calm talking woman appears. Oh, trans, please remain calm. Please return to your room so any survivors can be counted. And the cat, ah! I like that, mate. Mention that in that one. I did find that funny. But the Chippy in this one, you're about to die in 5, 4. Oh, it's Chippy. He actually got it wrong.
I'm just going to pass through your your heart valve. Yeah, like an Eskimo further.
Yeah.
And Wendology said the bit where Lister makes himself some beans on toast and half the toast suddenly floats off because the cat's there.
Yes,
that was good.
Disappears.
Yeah.
And he could, and they did that quite well. Obviously, you knew they were doing a green screen for the toaster and things like that. But I think for the beans, they would have had to have some very light, clear glass so it could look as if there was nothing there when they poured it in. It would have had to be done, and I think even the lighting would have had to be done, particularly even the filters, so it actually looked clear. They would have had to get something specifically to make it look as if it was filling the shape. The beans were filling the shape of the pot.
Yeah. But I mean, when we got to because does this actually reach Earth? I'm like, because M Corp's kind of said it's owned by Earth, isn't it?
Yes, it owns Earth.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's what I meant. Yeah, there. That's what I meant to say. So is Lister back on Earth then?
No, they're still in the middle of deep space.
No, when he beams to transports to M Corp.
No, I think that's just within the computer system.
No, it's a physical place because Crichton and Rimmer go there and they find they actually find him, don't they? And they physically carry him out, which suggests it's a real place. Yeah,
but when they carry him out, his aging disappears, so he's back to normal. So it would imply it's a virtual place.
Oh.
Because remember, when they carry him out, he's back to his 48, 50-year-old.
Oh. But I mean...
Remember that, and then they have to reset him, and he becomes the 23-year-old.
Oh, yeah.
His body's still the same, but his mind is the 23-year-old. But when they bring him out of the VR, his body is exactly the way it is. In VR, he was aging.
Yeah.
That's the way I looked at it. It was because as soon as they took him out, he went back to his normal age.
Yeah.
So the VR would have been hence the reason the aging and the more they need and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. See, that's why I thought this would have actually been a really good final episode, because they would have finished it with the stop rubbing, stop smiling, stop, and all that. I thought that would have been a good way to end it, because from there, if you didn't get anything else, then you could think it's all starting again. So if they didn't get Promised Land, it could have ended in such a way that it's all starting again, just that they're older, because he's forgotten everything. He's back to the very first episode, the end.
Yeah.
And that's why I thought this would have been a good ending episode, just because of that last scene where he's back to himself. It would have been, so if this was the last season, if they didn't do the Promised Land, if this was the last season, which they didn't obviously know they were going to get it, if it finished there, then in effect they're repeating the very first part of the season, or of the program, on the very end part. So they're starting and ending are the same, just different age group, and you could just think it's all starting again.
Bookend.
Bookending it, but also because of how it is, it's all starting again, because the growth, they have to go through that growth again, because he doesn't know this version of Rimmer, he doesn't know this version of Cat, he doesn't know Crichton, because when he was 23 they weren't there at the time.
No.
You see, I mean, that's what I was meaning. It could have actually left in your mind that it is all starting again. So you could have the books and all that, but then you could actually think, well, that could be from any time in the books, or it could be from now because his mind's been reset.
Yeah.
So that's why I thought that would have been a good ending for the season. Obviously, we know now we've got the Promised Land, but that's what I was thinking, because they didn't know they were going to get anything else. They were sure it was going to be the end. So that would have been a good ending for that.
I see your point, but I still lean on Skipper.
I can understand why for Skipper,
yeah.
and I see they were aiming this to be the final one, and it is simply because of the cast and the callback as well. See, I think it would have been better if M-Corp and Skipper was a double episode and just sort of mixed in a bit better. They could have the two stories running side by side, because in effect the stuff with Rimmer and the stuff with Lister could have run side by side, because the two of them were, as they were trying to find things to resolve the M-Core stuff, they've come across this thing for Skipper Rimmer uses, so they could have had the two stories, because in effect the two of them wouldn't have needed to gel with each other, and then it basically would have brought the two things in that could have made a really good ending.
Yeah. Because Skip is very Rimmer-centric, isn't it, in the end?
It is very, and it's all about him, and it also gives him the part that Lister had, the Dead Dave, with a complete new twist to it.
Yeah.
But there's again as well, you're talking about 18 years since the appearance of both Holly and Hollister.
Yeah.
And that was season 8. 18 years. And as soon as they appear, doesn't matter, even though Norman was the season, the series regular, and Hollister was only in a couple of seasons.
Yeah.
The two of them got the same type of cheer. Probably.
Hello? I presume he'll be back in a moment. I think he's just either kicked himself out of the chat or something's gone wrong.
Basically, it just basically the whole StreamYard just went doink, something went wrong, get the buggery.
Yeah.
I don't know what happened there. That's the second time StreamYards has been missed.
PJ's back.
Yeah, I'm back.
Holly, because like he just had the perfect delivery of the first line, wasn't it? It's like, Holly, where am I? What's the date? It's like, it's Monday and you're in a corridor.
where am I and when am I? Monday and you're in the corridor. Yeah, I thought that was excellent. He says they're all alive. Yes, Dave. Nobody's dead, Dave. Nobody's dead, Arnold. Are you sure? What about Peterson? Not dead, Arnold. None of them's dead, Arnold. And it's just basically playing out the dead Dave. But it's the not dead and Arnold. And I thought that was quite good. The fact, you've got Holly. You've got Mac McDonald. And I think Holly, yes, would have got the biggest cheer. I think Mac and Toasty would have got just about the same type of cheer. So that's what I was saying. If they could have made that a double episode, would have actually been quite good, because you've had the three of them in, and that's. And I thought this is the bookend, because you've got Holly and Hollister. The very first episode, you've got Holly and Hollister.
And you got the call back to the sleeping quarters as well, the old one.
Yes,
the old quarters are back.
Yes, but that's what I'm saying. Whereas in the previous episode, you've got the callback to the very first scene in Red Dwarf, which was them going down the corridor. So that's that's why I thought that one would have been slightly better. But I can understand why this one probably was, because having Norman Lovett in the 5th episode but not the 6th episode would have seemed a bit of a cheat. But having them in the final episode, it's not as a cheat as it were.
Yeah.
So I can understand why it was the final episode, but you can understand why I thought the other one, just because of the way it ended, would have been a better ender. But I think the two of them would have worked better if the two stories were together.
Yeah.
Because they could have had, they were trying to find a solution for M-Corp, and while they were looking, they came across this thing, the Dimension Hopper, the skipper, and Rimmer decided to take a wee bounce on that while they were trying to sort the M-Corp stuff.
Yeah.
Because it wouldn't have made any difference to him. They would have only lost a month's memory at the end of it. But I could go skipping while you're doing that, and I don't lose any memory because I wouldn't be here. Yeah. And there's obviously the parts of the skipping didn't make sense, because where's he get the power when he's a hologram? And if he goes and he's suddenly alive, how can he be suddenly alive? And then when he comes back, he's back to being a hologram. It makes no sense in that skipping.
It sounds like it comes across like the skipper basically puts you in place. It basically traces your life choices, and it basically puts you in place of whoever made the choice, whichever version you made the choices that you didn't. So that's how basically it becomes a hologram again.
But it's also a time travel machine and a time and space travel machine based on that. Because remember, at that point, there was the point where, has there not been the drive plate, and then he starts giving the emergency going on, the radiation leak, and so basically the radiation leak that happened 3 million years ago is happening now, but it couldn't have happened now. It had to happen 3 million years ago.
Well, the thing is, it was like, I think what it was is that because Rimmer had only been switched on about like about the moment after Lister came out of stasis, so technically he was kind of alive. He was basically conscious and making, and again, like basically might as well have been 2 days after the accident, rather than the 3 million years. Existentially, like that's how old he was. So I think that's where it placed him in time, was back when Red Dwarf was still just part of the.
Yeah, but then the one with Lister being the captain,
that was good. That was a really good payoff.
Do you know what would have been better? Do you know if he'd actually says, nope, can't have that, and his wife walked in and she was a stunner.
Oh.
Because remember, they basically, and I'm married, and the woman says, I'll go and let your wife know, and she'll meet you in the captain's. And then he goes over and she finds out who the captain is and what type of person he is and how he can't live with it. And then he would boom and pops out. I wanted to see an extra minute where his wife walks in and she's a stunner. Yeah. And it was a case of no matter how he basically screwed it for himself, because he had everything, and it was only because of his jealousy of Lister for one thing. Whereas if he'd seen his wife coming in, if she was a stunner, because he had these boys that he wanted, he was married that he wanted, he was an officer that he wanted, but it was because of Lister he couldn't put up with it. And that's why I would have wanted, when they went click, his wife would have walked in and she was an absolute stunner, or somebody he has mentioned in the past. He's always in love with whatever, but that's what I wanted to see. But they didn't really cut the rat as well instead of the cat.
That was brilliant.
It was, but I think I would have preferred it if it was a bit more humanoid. Give it, basically, you've got maybe like a cat, but instead of the fangs, maybe the slightly protruding nose, and still have the tail. And there's more than one of them. And they go in and they're sitting around the whole room, just basically eating crisps and throwing the packet away. Stuff like that I would have preferred, rather than just the one rat. Because he says, oh, they're all over the place, but you only see the one. I would have preferred to see loads of them. So if you had some people with prosthetic, just a wee bit like the Crichtons, the androids, the mechanoids, they had a lot of extras dressed as mechs. I would have liked to have seen a lot of extras dressed as rats, just all sitting around eating something, throwing a bit of pizza away or stuff like that. Messy little rats, but loads of them rather than just the one. I I think that would have been better. But hindsight's great because you think about it. Yes, I can think I would have loved to seen that bit just to make it that bit funnier that he gave all that up because he was jealous of Lister. But they also had the callback, which they seem to forget. Remember, because he said he ended up back there and he says you couldn't even find one you were successful. Well, we already know there's one because we've met Ace. Because remember, Ace says he couldn't find another one that was as pathetic as the Rimmer in this reality. So anyone he should have gone to were better, which they all seem to be. Some ones were at the end, and some other things that he just couldn't put up with, like the rat. But Lister one, I think they failed just because if he had teleported out, they just left it for a couple of seconds left, and the wife walks in and she would have been a stunner. Then you imagine what you would have been thinking when he turns back and says, "Nah, nothing for me there." And basically he got everything. He was an officer, he was married, he had 4 kids. The only thing he didn't like was Lister was more successful. You imagine if his wife walked in and she was a stunner and only had eyes for him, but he didn't see it and he bumped out before he came back, before she walked in. I think would have been more, it would have been funnier just to see the fact of what he missed due to his jealousy.
Well, I mean, the point of his jealousy was even that, like, this Lister was kind of like, he was like, well, why are you giving this up? You've done well for yourself. It's like this Lister seems to care about his crew. He wants even though he wants even Rimmer to do well.
Yeah, you're like, basically. I quite agree. I think you're right, and I think the fact that he was saying you're on Earth, you've got everything you want. Is it just me? Shows that he has got that feeling about him.
Yeah. But
that's what I'm saying. So I would have extended that 30 seconds, right? As soon as he bounces out, the wife walks in, a stunner. And then the captain turns around and goes, actually, he's gone. Why don't you just spend time with me? And she just turn around, slap him and say, I've only got eyes for Ace, and walk out. There you go. How funny would that have been? He gave everything up because of his jealousy. If it was such a perfect place that just that one thing he couldn't put up with. But because we didn't know how much, because we know he was married, we know he had kids.
Yeah.
But that was it. I think seeing a stunner and seeing the stunner saying, I've only got eyes for him. Do you know what I mean? Would have been a far better ending to that wee bit. And it's the same idea as the rat. If you had seen multiple rats all sitting around being messy, just cramped, so basically it doesn't matter how Lister is very posh and he has Chardonnay and all that, and it's that type of thing. He could be this guy, and he's just quite live and let live, but he still likes his book and he likes his meals. But the rats are just all sitting around, and it's great. And it just keeps his wee square clean because he's constantly on the go because of the rats.
Yeah,
and it would have been. I think that one would have been funnier if there was multiple rats just being a mess. But the wee square he stays in is because of Crichton.
Is it Danny John-Jules who played the rat?
I don't know. I think it was.
Because he wasn't listed in the cast, so I thought maybe that was Danny John-Jules in a rat suit.
Well, let's have a look, see.
Because I think, when Dolgy says, like, the voice was what made it work, because, like, it's just the way he goes, sometimes they even sleep with me, and he goes,
Yeah.
He's so warm and snuggly.
Yeah. It doesn't actually mention it, believe it or not.
Yeah.
No, it does not mention it, so I would assume so.
Yeah. Because, well, the thing about, like, Rimmer, because I think what this was kind of saying at the end was that it didn't sound like Danny's voice. It was, because it sounded a little bit, was kind of a bit more
Brash, very deep.
Yeah.
I thought it. Well, I didn't think it was Danny's voice, but what they might have done is basically modulated it. They could have modulated it, but I just assumed it was Danny's playing a different part, but they could have just modulated it. So let's see. What about just a bog standard search? See who does what where.
Because like with I think the point of the end was like it was the Rimmer couldn't stand Lister being more successful than him, but it was kind of in a way saying Rimmer's comfortable despising Lister, and that's so in a way it kind of reaffirms this universe is his comfort zone. So he's kind of that's what he's come back to.
Yes,
I thought that was for me a good way to end the season, and maybe if the show hadn't come back, maybe that would have been a good way for the show to kind of finish. If we didn't get the promised land.
There it's there. It basically is mentioned Mr. Rat. It basically says the biography of the rat. I don't know how much details it goes into. In the universe Rimmer enters, he encounters a version of Crichton and Lister. However, when Rimmer asked about the cat, the other were confused and said Mr. Rat on board and called him over. The rat enters the room and sat. The radiation leak, Felis Sapien. They didn't have a holy war. It doesn't actually say who actually played it.
No.
Although not credited, the rat is generally assumed to be played by Danny John-Jules.
Yeah.
So it's assumed it's Danny John-Jules because it's not credited. Same idea as what you're saying, because it's not credited, you assumed it. But nobody's actually come out and said it was him. So it's just even in the page about the rat, it basically just said it's assumed it was Danny.
All right.
And yeah, the fact that did a little dance when he came in.
Yeah, because I mean, I think this was planned to be the anniversary episode, and that's why there were so many callbacks to the end with the because the return of Hollister, the reenactment of the disaster, and of course the old bunk room being back. I think that was kind of
and the not dead lines and stuff like that.
Yeah. But I think they missed the anniversary date, so it ended up not airing on the anniversary, which is kind of whereas they wanted it to.
Yeah, because was it not because of the broadcasting schedule on Dave? I know things were getting broadcast a week early and stuff like that. So it could have messed it all up because they couldn't get the right date on Dave because of their scheduling with everything else.
Yeah.
So, but it was unfortunate. I think, what was your favourite episode in all of these 6?
I think it probably was Skipper. I think that's the one it's the one I've rewatched the most.
See, I rewatched Skipper twice. The only other one I rewatched twice was Time Warp, and I think that Time Wave. Sorry,
yeah,
I think that is my favourite, but Skipper is a close second.
Yeah,
Cop is good.
Yeah,
and Cured is good. My least favourite, I must admit, is the Robert Llewellyn-centric one.
Siliconia.
Siliconia.
Yeah.
And just slightly above that was the other Robert Llewellyn, Mr. President, Mechocracy. I can never pronounce it.
Mechocracy.
Yeah. Mechocracy.
Yeah.
Those are my least 2 favourites. But then again, saying what's my least favourite compared to season 10, compared to season 10, these are all classic masterpieces.
Nothing in this was as bad as Duck Soup, was it?
No, that's what I'm saying. These were classic masterpieces compared to even things like 9 and 10.
Yeah.
There is nothing that you would class as the worst episode. So they were the medium ones were the worst ones were okay and some good lines in it, but Skipper is probably my second favourite, whereas Time Wave is definitely my favourite. And believe it or not, it was it was Johnny Vegas that actually tipped the balance, because I don't normally like him, but I find him hilarious in this.
Yeah.
I just found all the bits and pieces and the look on the participation trophy cult,
Yeah.
and the SGW and how they think the dystopia would end up.
Yeah.
I found it interesting as well as funny.
Yeah.
And I couldn't believe that the one with Johnny Vegas. I was expecting the one with Johnny Vegas when I first saw it to be my least favourite.
Yeah.
It turned out to be my favourite. It just goes to show you never judge a book by its cover.
Yeah, kind of in a way, in this chaotic way, it works because it's about people just being in a way that people being a complete kind of catastrophe of failures.
Yes.
So
But also the fact is the bit when they all came in, they basically Zippy was bouncing around, flapping his arms.
Yeah.
And the society made them think they had to do it as well, rather than just walking in, because that's the way you want to walk. Who could criticise you for not doing it?
Yeah.
So the fact that they bounced in because they had this feeling that if they didn't, then it would be criticising someone else. So you're having to do things that you're not comfortable doing, so other people don't get uncomfortable. But then again, if they don't do what you're doing, surely you would be uncomfortable. And it did. It's a spiraling thing. So they were doing things that made them uncomfortable because they didn't want to criticise and make him feel uncomfortable and think he's been criticised. Yeah. But if they'd walked in, he couldn't see anything to them because that would be critical. And
yeah,
that's things like that, even that aspect of them walking in and doing that, because there you go, there's something that people have been made to act in a way they didn't want to because they were fearful of causing criticism and being arrested. So how far does it go? So all these people you see sitting around dressing funny and doing all the silly things, do they really want to do it, or are they just doing it because other people are doing it and they don't want to be criticised?
Well, see, I got the impression they did that because they were in an infantile state, because they hadn't grown up, because they'd never been challenged to grow up. So they were still, in a way, like in a way they were kind of a bit like Lister, because Lister's kind of quite a he's a classic millennial, isn't he? He's he lives in a state of prolonged adolescence. And
he said that in Siliconia. He says, "You're my friend, you're my mum."
Yeah.
So he still lives with his mum. His mum still looks after him because he sees crying as his mum.
Yeah.
So yeah, I quite agree. But it was just the fact is, there they go ahead. They're doing things that so if they're doing that, how many other people are dressing in a way? They're not doing it because they're just infantile as well, but they're doing it because other people are doing it, and if they don't, they'll maybe think they're being critical of them, so they need to dress in the most weird and wonderful way just so other people feel comfortable, not them. But if they actually dress the way they wanted, then other people would be turning around going, I need to dress that way, because otherwise they'll think I'm being critical. And it's a catch-22. Where do you actually turn around and say, well, actually, I want to be myself, doesn't matter how stupid or crazy or whatever it is. You can be yourself, I want to be myself, but you can't criticise me the same as I can't criticise you. Whereas at the moment in the current climate is, I want to do what I want to do, fine, but I want to do it. No, you have to do the same as me. It doesn't work. You can't do what you want to do if I have to do what you want me to do as well. Because if you get to do what you want to do, then I get to do what I want to do. That's the way it works. We either all follow rules or nobody follows rules. You can't have, you have to follow the rules because I want you to, and I will do what I want because I want to. It doesn't work that way. And I think that's why it basically Time Wave worked for me, because it actually did show that it was a smart one as well as funny.
Yeah.
So, but on a whole, obviously we know it's better than 8, 9, and 10. But on a whole,
well, the thing is, like so I mean, for me, Skipper is my favorite because I just love the payoff, and I think it's not just a great payoff to the episode in terms of the fact that he can't find the right dimension, then he does, and then it goes, and then that one niggle ruins it. It's kind of, in a way, it's a payoff to the show as a whole, because it's the payoff of what his relationship with Lister in his own dimension has been like, and why it's that I just love that as a payoff. I just think it's...
See, I do. There was only two things that actually dropped it below being my favourite, and it was only me, if you know what I mean, because I'd seen something else and I thought it would have been better with that. Like, for instance, I saw the previous one, M Corp, and I thought that ending would have been slightly better. Yeah. So it wasn't the Skipper episode, it was me thinking I could do better than that. But you know what I mean? It's just because I saw that previous set as a better ending for my liking. So it's because of that. I really like Skipper, but because of that, and also the part I thought, oh, that would have been better if they'd left it for a couple of seconds to see his wife walk in, to see how gorgeous she was and see what he'd given up, because it would have been funnier. But because of that's my criticism of something that didn't happen. So you can't say it's something they did do. It's something I thought they should have done. But so it's my mind saying, well, because I can think of that, surely somebody else could have thought of that in the writer's room. But the only reason that that's it. That was the only reason it's not my favourite. It's my second favourite. It's because my mind has said these two things would have made it far better.
See, I think what they were going for there, like what you were going for was kind of the, in a way, a final gag. But I think what they were going for was kind of more the poignance of Rimmer just can't, you know, it's kind of it's for him it's kind of the tragedy. It's the eternal tragedy. I mean,
I think it is definitely a good way to actually end it if that was the final episode. A call back to the very first episode.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, Wendology's picked her favourites. It's Skipper and Mechocracy.
Very good.
Yeah.
And right, who else is in? There's anybody else out there got another favourite, Darren? There is 4 people watching, so we at least know one, because Wendology keeps on bumping in there, so we know she's there. Yeah. But 3 other people watching. But anywho, any others?
No, I think it's just
and you're right there. No matter how many other universes out there, there is only our Boys from the Dwarf. Boys from the Dwarf. I like the bit with the Mediocrity when he's trying to do Boys from the Dwarf, and he's only got one hand.
But the funny one for me was obviously killed, where it's like, we're Boys from the Dwarf. It's like, I'll give you anything you want. And then Cat just goes, sounds good. And he crosses the line.
Over. And the other one says, it was the, I'll give you what you want. Or did it? And it says, we'll give you what you want. And a special surprise. Oh, I love special surprises. It could have been anything, but I love a special surprise. And that's basically what got him back. And it was just backwards and forwards. But I must admit, there was bits and pieces in all of them. I can't say any of these disappointed in any way that I thought, oh, I wish I would watch this season and not watch that again.
Yeah.
Because I think they all had their merit. Considering after season 9 and 10, and a couple of episodes here and there that you would skip, but this season, I don't think there's one that you could say, nah, I'm quite happy to miss that one. Yes, we're told you can only watch 3. You've got your 3 you want to pick. But if you were told you had to lose one, you don't need to. That's the thing.
Yeah.
Or you can skip one if you want, but you don't want. And that's the thing. That's what's good about a program, that no matter what, there's nothing that you would turn around and go, nah, I'm skipping that episode.
It's like the 2 11 and 12. They feel like a kind of the like very kind of,
they're the bounce backs.
Well, yeah, but they're also kind of they feel like almost a kind of entity into themselves, kind of thing, in the same way series 1 and 2 do.
Yeah, I would have said 1, 2, and 3 for me. Yes, they seem quite separate because they are this. their launch pad.
Yeah.
And then you've got the ones in the middle that are you're settling in.
Yeah.
Then you've got the 8 and 9, which are sort of things are falling apart, and then 10 and 11 and 12 are basically all getting put back together again. So it's separate stages of the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
The new couch, the couch is comfy, the couch is broken, the couch is now getting fixed.
Yeah.
And then we're going to have, right, basically the couch is ended, now we'll go and get a new couch. That's next week.
Yeah.
But it is, I thought, I quite enjoyed rewatching this because it had been a few years since I watched it. I watched it when it was first on. I watched it when I got the DVD, and I haven't watched it for a couple of years.
Yeah.
Probably, I'm trying to think when I got the DVD. I think I would have got the DVD when it came out, so it would probably been in 17, so that was, 4 years ago?
Yeah.
I was married not long before, so aye, so 4 years. So I would have probably watched it probably about 3 years ago was the last time I watched this. And the good thing is I remembered bits of it, so that's how good parts of it were. Because you know what it's like, you don't remember stuff because you've seen it for 3-4 years. I always find things that if somebody mentions, it'll pop into my head because I enjoyed it, even though it might have been 5-10 years ago I saw it. I'll still remember aspects of it.
The older you get, the more stuff you watch has to make a stronger impression on you for you to remember it.
Yes, definitely. And believe me, the amount of crap I've got in my head. It's the same idea. Basically, I'll sit in the chat in some streams. I think it was the captain stream. They were talking certain things, and I'm sitting there going, "Oh, I've not seen that for a number of years." But I would reply to it and say, "No, this happened, and that happened, and that happened." And it's because I enjoyed it when I saw it those 10 or 15 years ago. I still remember aspects of it. It's things like Planet of the Apes, the TV movie. I remember the first episode of that.
Yeah.
Surprisingly enough. But it was a while back I saw that.
Yeah.
So it's things like that. It's just a case of this season, there was a couple of good bits that I remembered. So I knew Holly was coming back. I knew Talkie Toaster because I remembered them. Might not have remembered exactly what episode when I was rewatching it there, but I knew they were coming in because I remember seeing them. And I remember smiling at the time, going, "Oh, they're back. Oh, Doggy," and that type of thing. So I remembered there are certain aspects of it. I might not have remembered exactly what episode and things like that, but there's certain things you do remember. I remember Mr. Rat. I wasn't as keen on it then, and I did think at the time I would have preferred to, because he mentioned all the rats, I would have liked to have seen all the rats all lazing around and just lying around, because the rats, they would just take up all the space they could get away with.
Yeah.
But I remember wee bits and pieces. So I quite enjoyed this season. It's definitely a bounce back. And if it was a final season, I think it actually went out with a bang, not a whimper. But luckily enough, it didn't finish.
Yeah.
We have got next week, and we're going to have a panel. Yourself back on, Windology, Darren, if they can make it. And I've got a couple more I've put out to see if I can get them on. But we'll finish up there. That's not too bad. That's nearly 3 hours talking Red Dwarf. Defo enjoyed it. 8 out of 10. There's a good score from Windology.
What did we do wrong to lose 2 points?
I know, the good thing is it's Red Dwarf season 12. 8 out of 10. We got a 10 out of 10, don't we, Ben? Better watch, you might actually put 7 out of 10. We might be in trouble. I bet she knows we'll just vote her down next week. Anywho. Well, ladies and gents, thank you very much for joining us, and thank you, Sadako and you know you're welcome on Saturday. We'll just be talking geeky stuff.
I might be able to make it, I'm not sure, but I'll
No, it's you whenever it suits you, pop in.
no. Okay.
Okay. And we both got a 10 out of 10 from Windology. Thank you, Windology.
Thanks, Wendell. Thanks.
I won't even use the old dad joke. That's the old dad joke. Remember, out of 10, I would give her one, but that's a different dad joke. Yes. Yes, that's old, dirty old man accordingly, because I'm old and I'm straight, so I must be a dirty old man. But anywho, join us again next week for season 13, The Promised Land.
Yeah.
Good night to one and all. Remember, I'm not old, I'm classic.
See you, Smegheads.
Bye, guys.